night. Heroes born in the neon light. Through the panels, legends grow. Where the ink tells stories bold. Comic book spotlight, shining bright. Creators' dreams take flight each night. From cape crusades to cosmic fights, we dive into their tales. Ignite, writers weave and artists draw. Through the chaos, justice calls. Inkers trace the lines of fate. Editors build the tales escape. Comic book spotlight, shining bright. Creators' dreams take flight each night. From cape crusades to cosmic fights, we dive into their tales. Ignite, golden age to modern flair. Every story we're aware. Masking capes, secrets unfold. Legends live their stories told. Sidekicks rise and villains scheme. A multiverse of every dream. Past and present arcs collide. Where the heroes always thrive. Ignite, writers weave and artists draw. Through the chaos, justice calls. Inkers trace the lines of fate. Editors build the tales escape. Comic book spotlight, shining bright. Creators' dreams take flight each night. From cape crusades to cosmic fights, we dive into their tales. Ignite to modern flair. Every story we're aware. Massive cape secrets unfold. Legends live their stories told. Ignite, golden age to modern flair. Every story we're aware. Massive cape secrets unfold. Legends live their stories told.
Welcome, everybody. That was awesome. That was a great introduction to our starting of our stream. Um, that was Den of Geek's awesome theme music for comic book spotlight. A little bit of echo there, but I apologize. And we're gonna bring in the one, the only Den of Geek. What's up?
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
I am great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I love that theme song that you created for Comic Book Spotlight. I love it
My
every time I hear
pleasure.
it. Yeah,
I
it's
just
like
know how to speak with the computers.
it's everybody goes ask me that is so cool. Who made it? And I said, of course, the Den of Geek. And they're like, oh yeah. And then you gave Jay the kind of know how to do it on his own, right?
Yes, I did. I did. I gave him kind of a brief tutorial and gave him the tools.
That is awesome. So are you
And
excited
I
about?
am I am so excited about this. Hi, Stacy. Um, I am so excited because this is like one of the first big crossover events that I remember.
Mhm. Well, welcome to Stacy, and how you doing over there? We appreciate you coming in, and I think we'll just get the slideshow going here. I got get it all set up. Let's see. Oh, well, Let's see. It'd be nice if I opened it up first, right?
Might be, might be. Trust me, I've had those days. Believe me.
Let's see. Okay, I got that. Okay, hello. I apologize, everybody. They're seeing like a blank screen.
Hey, it happens, man. It happens. It's technology and live broadcasting.
Let's see. Screen share. Okay. You see it?
Yes.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah,
Great storylines of comic book of the 80s. Secret Wars. You like your little logo?
I do. Yes.
I wanted to make sure that, your logo was present.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, not a problem. Let's see. Let me. Chat's open. Perfect. Here it is, everybody. Let's go to. Oh, yeah. Hello. Here's the next slide. Uh,
12 issues of awesome.
Look at that. Secret Wars 12 issue limited series, which I don't get what the limited series was. Was it a one time thing?
At that point, it was supposed to be a one-time thing
Yeah.
because you would rarely ever see this many heroes, this many villains in one book at one time.
Right. Right. And was it? Let's see. Um, you see in all 12 issues there, from bottom to top. From the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 up on top, all the way to 12.
Yeah.
Those are great issues. Those are great issues.
That was what I consider some of the best art in comics, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, the Spider Man logo, if I'm correct, this all started from Amazing Spider Man. Am I correct, Den of Geek?
Yes. Yes.
So that's why we see the Spider Man logo on the comic book of Secret Wars.
Yes. And of course, we all know number 8, which we can see a bit of on issue 8's cover, is where he gets the black suit,
Exactly.
which is probably one of the most iconic moments in comic books.
Yes. We'll go to the next slide, and we're just going to briefly explain. Let's get into it. Marvel number 1. And basically, if you want to read that for me, Danny Geek, if you can.
Okay. All right. A cosmic entity, the Beyonder, becomes fascinated with Earth's superheroes in the mainstream Marvel universe. He creates Battle World, a planet in a distant galaxy, and stocks it with weapons and technology. He teleports groups of heroes and supervillains against their will to Battle World, declaring, I am from beyond. Slay your enemies, and all that you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. And this is after they see him destroy create and destroy a universe to create Battle World. So they know he's not playing.
Exactly.
The heroes include the Avengers, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Hawkeye, Iron Man, She-Hulk, Thor, the Wasp, and the Hulk. 3 members of the Fantastic Four, Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, and the Thing. Solo heroes Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. And the mutant team, the X-Men, Colossus, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Professor X, Rogue, Storm, Wolverine, and Lockheed the Dragon. Honestly, I think Lockheed was greatly underrepresented in this series.
Yes.
Magneto is featured as a hero, but immediately becomes non-aligned when the Avengers question his presence. In 2015, Deadpool's Secret Wars revealed that Deadpool was also a chosen hero, but the Wasp accidentally caused the other characters to forget his involvement.
Oh my god.
You gotta love Deadpool because you never know what's going to happen with him.
Exactly.
The villains include the Absorbing Man, Doctor Doom, actually the main character of the story, Doctor Octopus, the Enchantress, Kang the Conqueror, Claw, the Lizard, the Molecule Man, and Titania, Ultron, Volcana, and the Wrecking Crew. Man, we haven't seen the Wrecking Crew in comics in a long time.
Exactly.
The cosmic entity Galactus also appears as a villain who immediately becomes a non-aligned entity. Yeah,
Exactly. It is so crazy that they had this many superheroes and this many villains in one comic book.
and they managed to do a lot with them in just 12 issues. Because nowadays, you get something like that, Marvel would milk it for at least 50 or 60.
Exactly. Exactly. And what was I going to say? There was Molecule Man. I wasn't really aware of Molecule Man until I had to read read this over again. And
Oh yes, he is a serious power hitter.
yeah,
Um, and I love this because Molecule Man at this point has pretty much given up being a villain. He just wants a house, a family, and a normal, boring job.
exactly.
Um, and it's funny because everybody that's reading this is kind of like, I have that. You want to trade?
Exactly. But why didn't they have the female Fantastic Four invisible
Invisible,
woman?
Invisible Girl or Invisible Woman later on. Yeah.
Yeah, in this comic, that didn't make sense to me. You know.
I think that at the time she was involved in another storyline, and it would have really interrupted it.
Oh, oh.
Not that that's ever mattered to the writing staff.
And when it came to X Men, I think there was every X Men known in this
Yeah.
in this comic book. I mean, you got Rogue, Storm, Professor X, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Cyclops.
Yeah, but Kitty Pryde wasn't in there either.
No, and neither was Jean Grey.
Neither was Jean Grey.
Yeah.
So, I guess they have kind of their own ideas about what they want to do.
Right.
Um, and this Captain Marvel is the one that eventually goes on to become Spectrum.
Right. And you know what I like about this first issue? It's very gloomy looking.
It is. It is. Like, you've got Captain America there, but he is not wearing the traditional blue there. You've got the grays. You've
Hmm.
got a lot of very deep shadows on there.
And you don't see the traditional Wolverine outfit as well. It's
Well, you
totally
do. You
a
do,
little
but
bit.
it's darker. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's darker shades. And I think this was kind of like, even with Hawkeye,
Hmm.
if you look at him, all these characters very deep shadow looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of saying that this was going to be a more mature book.
Yeah. Definitely. You know what I noticed about Storm? Is she had a different look.
She did, yes. Back in the early to mid 80s, they went more punk rock with Storm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, I've always liked that look for Storm.
Yeah. And they used that puckwork look in one of the movies
Yeah.
um, that Sony did. Was it Sony?
No.
It
Or
was.
yeah, it might have been. It was one of the X-Men First Class type series.
Right. And I think it was.
I
Uh,
think that one was Apocalypse. They
yeah,
used that.
Apocalypse. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a
Yeah.
great movie, but not horrible either. I've seen
No.
far worse superhero movies.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the next slide.
Okay.
Who is Beyonder? And I'll read this one.
Yeah.
Let's see. It says, "Who is a Beyonder?" Question mark. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
He, the Beyonder, is an infamous member of the Beyonder race, childlike and vastly powerful. He grew up in a universe created by the other Beyonders for their young. He was not aware of the other Beyonders and misinterpreted his personal universe as everything in existence. While still a child, the older Beyonders began their grand experiment where they transformed, was it Own Race?
Owen Reese, yeah,
Own
into the
Race
molecule.
into Molecule Man. This accident poked a hole into the Beyonders universe.
Yeah. Um, and like up there with Beyonder, of course, is the Watcher
Right.
up there. Only he doesn't mess around as much, or
No.
he's not supposed to, at least.
And I like this. I picked this image, and I know some people are going to go, well, it looks more disco. And I'm like, yes, it does look disco, like he's wearing a jumpsuit from the disco era.
Yeah,
But I like this one because you see Spider Man in his black outfit.
and that became so iconic.
Oh, yeah.
Um, everybody loves Spidey in the black outfit in the symbiote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you got to remember, back in the '80s, disco wasn't completely dead yet. It was certainly dying, though.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering why they picked that particular outfit for the Beyonder. I guess to make it more futuristic, kind
I
of.
guess maybe. I know that a lot of the superhero comics back then
Hmm.
um, still had a lot of like '60s and like early to mid '70s fashion in it. You didn't really see an update in the fashion from them until about, I say, the late '80s, early '90s, when you started getting new artists like Todd McFarlane,
Hmm.
who basically looked at like MJ, and he said this on the record. He said, she's supposed to be a fashion model and she's still wearing like bell bottom jeans and everything. And he's like, I didn't want that. I wanted her to look more like a modern time. And I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to relate to those current readers as well.
Yeah. And if anybody in the chat wants to, you know, ask us any question, please be free to put in
Yeah.
the chat. We'll definitely try to answer as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we go to the next slide. Number 2, issue 2. Now,
Yeah.
because we kind of explained issue 1, it's just basically the Beyonder trying to um, grab the heroes and villains enforcement to kind of like his little playground. So
Yeah, it's like the ultimate playset for him.
exactly, because they explained it. What I read, he's childlike, so it's
Yeah.
like he feels like the universe is his playground. You
Yeah.
know?
And in the panel on the right of the screen,
Yeah.
they do one thing that drives me mental.
What's that?
They have them thinking about themselves and their powers and explaining it in thought bubbles. It drove me nuts in the '80s. I mean, granted, you're not going to know all the characters,
No,
but a character named Storm, you kind of get the gist of the capability of the powers.
exactly.
You don't
Exactly.
need to, show me the powers. Don't explain it to me.
No, I love this cover because Magneto's in the middle, and then
Yeah,
all the other superheroes are around him. So
yeah.
you kind of have an idea that Magneto's going to be involved somehow.
Oh yes. Again, though, the posing on him, I like it, but it also at the same time kind of looks like he's being shot in the back with a taser.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's I'm not. Look, I can't draw that well to save my life.
Right.
I'm just saying everything is tensed up. And back in the '80s, they actually had a book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
It's very interesting because they had a very specific style
Mhm.
that they used, which was like kind of a cross with Kirby and you know, Kubert and all
Yeah.
of them, and Ramita, and it showed you how to draw it to their style.
Yeah.
It's not easy to find now. Trust me, I've
Ab-
looked.
Absolutely. And
But
all these
yeah,
images came off my book that I got, graphic novel, from Barnes and Noble, which was supposed to come Tuesday, and it showed up Wednesday.
oh, well, hey, it happens.
Yeah,
Just be glad it showed up this week.
I know. I was freaking out. I was like, I gotta get the slideshow done, and I was trying to pull images off the web, and
Yeah,
like
but
the front.
just
Go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, like, if you look at that first page, "Prisoners of War,"
Yeah.
like that is iconic to me. That style
Yes.
with Cyclops pointing at the reader and everything. To
Yeah.
me, that is iconic.
Yeah.
Because you see that in a lot of comics, and to me that really draws you in as a reader when the first panel, it feels like they're pointing directly at you. Hey, Josh.
Yeah. Josh is here. We appreciate you coming.
Yeah, but no, I mean,
Hmm.
I know that you spend a lot of time getting these slideshows set up and
Oh yeah.
really taking a lot of pride in them, and it shows that you care about presenting.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. I think if that us doing this whole thing, explaining everything to everybody, you want to take pride into it, and
hey,
I just don't
James.
want to throw something together and be like, here you go.
Yeah. Hey, James. Thanks for showing up and
Oh yeah.
stopping in to chat with us.
Yeah.
We're talking about one of the coolest crossover events of all time.
Yeah. And in number two, I'll read it. In Secret Wars issue 2, the plot focuses on the destruction of the Marvel Universe and the birth of Battleworld. The issue reveals that the Beyonder, as the architect of this new realm, and readers are introduced to the mysteries and dangers of the strange new world.
Yeah. Um, and there is one moment in issue 2, and again, it's going to date this issue. I'm just going to pull
Yep.
my digital copy up because I did purchase a digital copy.
Oh, awesome.
Um, because I do believe in purchasing stuff. Um, but there is one point in this
Hmm.
with She-Hulk, and
Yes.
you actually got that panel shown. I just have to find which one it is. There it is. You know,
Hmm.
she's basically fighting Enchantress, and oh wow, that was like totally tubular, to the max. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, did I ever sound that bad?
Absolutely. And what I like about this is, as Cyclops is pointing, as you said, they're seeing their universe be destroyed and this new world being created.
Yeah. Hey, Mutron. Hopefully, the mini Mutrons are down for the night.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure he's kind of happy with them being in bed.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier on Discord on Josh's channel in Discord.
Now, in the middle one, I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's Doom flying in.
That is Doom, yes.
And you see the destruction and everybody being into this new realm of battle world. And
Yeah.
you know it's interesting the way they made the big panel and then three little
Yeah.
four little panels within the big panel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't
So
see that. I'm
you
sorry.
don't see that too often today.
No, no, no.
And it also kind of gives you a bit more room to play with and kind of gives you a bit more room to kind of establish the landscape. Um, and you know, and back then at this point, I didn't mind Doctor Doom. I kind of liked him. He was a cool villain for me. I didn't
Yeah.
read a lot with him. Yeah, She-Hunk. Um, but yeah, and I like that, the four panels underneath,
Yeah.
or on top of that one panel.
Yeah.
It's really good for storytelling because then you can kind of see, oh, okay, so you read the big panel first. Then I know people that refuse to read comics because they don't know what order to read the dialogue in,
Right.
and it is a real thing. Uh, and I know many people with it.
Hmm.
I just kind of figure out where the dialogue goes.
Exactly. And I kind of feel the Beyonder feels like the superheroes and villains are like his toys.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, this is like him picking up like the ultimate playset.
Oh yeah.
Um, and this is like the early version of Small Soldiers from the '90s before Small Soldiers. Um, and they had great writers at the time.
Hmm.
That okay, yes, the dialogue is cheesy, but that's kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah. I got a lot from people trying to tell me that Savage World and Battle World were the same, but they're not.
No, they
They're
are not. No,
two
they're
different.
two very different things.
Yeah.
Savage World is actually on Earth,
Right.
whereas Battle World was created specifically for this.
Now, was Savage World considered like? Um, I'm trying to. Someone trying to say that Savage World was like Canada, and I was like,
Uh,
oh,
it's located in the Arctic. The entrance
okay,
to it is located in the Arctic, and then that entrance leads to a prehistoric world.
gotcha.
Although there are parts of Canada that would certainly class as savage.
Sorry, Josh. We're not making fun of Canada. We're
Uh,
not,
Trust me, we make fun of ourselves enough.
oh, exactly. But
Um,
in the last panel here, we see She-Hulk coming in
yeah,
and joining the heroes here, and
and yeah, you can tell it's the '80s. She's got leg warmers on.
yes, yeah, that's so funny. And
It's the small fashion details that stand out to me.
exactly. And I kind of like that you have a Human Torch in the sky along with Iron Man
Yeah.
and Thor, who the classic look. I always like that look, that Viking look.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They hadn't back then. They hadn't changed the look of Thor since I'd say the '60s when he first came out. That was still the original look for Thor, and I always liked that.
Yeah, it's very classic with the Viking helmet and cape and
At
armor.
least, at least they didn't put horns on the helmet.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine
That
that?
drives me. That always drives me nuts when I see people like, "Oh, let's put horns on the Viking helmet." They didn't wear horns. They
Mhm.
drank from horns.
Yes.
They used them to call as as distress calls and all that, but they didn't use them on their heads.
Since people don't really know a whole lot about issue two, basically I think the heroes are becoming uh, aware they're in this new realm and everything, and they're kind of just checking it out. I
Yeah,
think they're a little bit shocked as well.
I would be.
To be taken away from your ultimate world and then thrust into this new universe.
Yeah, and one of the other things they do in episode
Hmm.
two, issue two, same difference,
Yes.
is they discover their high tech bases that the Beyonder has provided for them.
Yeah.
And at one point, one of the heroes says that it's bigger than the Pentagon, and you know and Cap's like, is bigger than 500 pentagons.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I
Uh,
don't. Do you remember who Hulk is embracing here or standing behind? I can't.
let me.
I want to say it's.
Let's take a look here.
You have the digital. This one's a little bit too
That
small.
yeah, that's the wrecking crew. He's tying up.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the villain side.
Yeah. And
And I
like I
love.
said, we haven't seen the wrecking crew in comics in a long time.
Yeah.
At least not to my knowledge.
It's funny that they didn't have the Canadian side of X Men, which was Alpha Force.
Alpha Flight. Yeah.
Alpha Flight, sorry.
Back then, I don't know if Alpha Flight existed just yet. I will take a look on that just because I'm curious as well.
Yeah.
Alpha Flight.
Because you would think they would be maybe a part of it.
Okay, they first appeared in Uncanny Cameo in Uncanny X-Men number 120 in April 79, and they didn't really take a place until May of 1979
Okay.
issue. They're let me just think. Okay. It was running, but Alpha Flight wasn't considered one of the main titles
Okay.
for Marvel. You know, in Canada it didn't sell well. In Canada or in the US it didn't sell well. In Canada it did pretty well.
Yeah.
Simply because we don't get many heroes. So
Right. And like we said, I like this version of Storm. It's punk rock kind of.
they were going for something more modernized at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I liked it a lot better than some of the previous versions.
And it's always funny how when they draw the female, they always make the breasts so large.
Absolutely.
And they're like, okay, we're going to make sure this feature stands out just right.
Yeah. I always enjoyed the fact that DC is now actually leaning into the comedic side of that, like with Power Girl.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned like, do you ever lose sight of villains under there and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So, and in this one, I think Storm has a bit more realistic build.
Yes.
She-Hulk's still fairly busty, but then again, she's like 8 feet tall.
Exactly. The only thing I don't think Marvel got right back then was the color tone of Storm.
No. It was difficult because back then the color palette you could color, but
Yeah,
when it went to the printers, originally the Hulk was supposed to be gray,
right.
but it got washed out so much during the printing process, so they went with green because it stood out more on the page.
Right.
So I think they kind of had to do something similar with Storm.
Exactly. All right, we're going to go on to the next slide. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Understanding more of the plot of Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a more detailed breakdown. The Beyonder, the new reality. The Beyonder has created a new world called Battleworld, a twisted version of the Marvel Universe, where the heroes find themselves the heroes' abduction. Battleworld is not a normal, realistic world, but a collection of different realms created by the Beyonder. The Beyonder has fixed some things like providing Professor X a wheelchair, even though he regained the use of his legs previously. I guess
Mm-hmm.
that was a previous issue of X Men.
Mm-hmm.
The heroes like Reed Richards express their concerns about their families and loved ones who were likely affected by the destruction of their reality. Ben Grimm is seen reverting to his human form, suggesting a previously untapped ability that was blocked by his psychological state.
Yeah, and when you mentioned that, I just remembered why Invisible Woman wasn't brought in. At this
Okay.
point, she was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so that would make sense. Yeah.
That does make
And
sense.
and like the heroes mentioned that, I was last thing I remember, I was in bed. I wasn't in my uniform.
Hmm.
Um last you know, but suddenly they're in their armor or in their wheelchair like Professor X points out. So, yeah, it's interesting,
Yeah.
and it's one way to kind of loophole it.
This kind of reminds me of the Marvel movie with the Infinity Gauntlet, the blip, basically,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
took away most of the people on the Earth.
I would have found it interesting if they did kind of a Secret Wars that took
Hmm.
place during the blip
Right,
movie. Like, hey, they really didn't die. They were just like on a battle world type thing
right.
for 5 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. 5 years.
Yeah.
But it would make sense and it could tie in with the
Yeah.
rest of the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So, good idea. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide because we just read everything.
Yeah.
Here we go. It begins now. That's how I can explain it. It begins now.
Yeah. Yeah, this like the first two issues, they're really just trying to set things up.
Yeah,
Um they're not doing anything flashy besides just trying to make sure that the readers understand the setting.
yeah. I just love the war begins and you see all the superheroes in Battle
Yeah.
World, Human Torch, Iron Man, the Thing in his classic outfit,
Yeah.
Nightcrawler, Hawkeye,
Yeah.
Reed
And of course,
Richards.
at this point, Hulk's not a mindless raging maniac. He's actually got the brain of Bruce Banner in there.
Exactly. And then in the second one in the middle, you see Battle World forming,
Yeah.
which is I looked up later on. Will we be able to see a map of what Marvel put out for Battle World?
Yeah.
Josh Pepper says this. Okay, let's put it up with this question.
Yeah.
This is all new to me as I'm not familiar with Secret Wars.
Yeah. A lot of people aren't familiar with Secret War.
Yeah,
Like they'll hear the reference, and I mean, it kind of explains itself. It was a secret war, but it it's a rather long series for the time, and a lot happens in it.
hmm,
And finding issues of it, especially back in the day, were pretty difficult.
yeah. Now I love the expression on Doom because he kind of has that worry look face, but
Yeah.
you never really see that too much in modern comics now. You don't see the
No, because Doom's face is basically a faceplate
right.
now.
Right.
So you don't see the emotion on him.
Yeah.
Same with Iron Man. Back in the day, they used to put like emotion on the faceplate every so often. Now they don't do that because it's supposed to be a faceplate. It's supposed to cover.
Right. But I love the Doctor Doom, Doctor Octopus, and
Yeah.
who's next to him? Do you remember Den of Geek?
Absorbing Man.
Absorbing Man.
Yeah.
It's funny how they come up with names for villains and superheroes. Just pick
Yeah.
something out of the air or they're doing something at the time, and they're just like, yeah, we'll call him a absorbing man.
Yeah, well, that's his power, basically. Oh, he absorbs things.
Yes,
Okay, well, at least it's easy.
exactly. But I just love how they come up with these simple names, for villains
Yeah.
and superheroes.
Well, um, Stan Lee actually explains why a lot of these characters have the first name letter and the last name letter being the same. It was a mnemonic device. He was horrible with names.
Oh,
So, Peter Parker, Spider Man. Same with the Fantastic Four. They called it the Baxter Building because he's like, otherwise I would have forgotten what to call it.
right.
So they did that as a mnemonic device for him when he was writing them. And I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
So he can remember character names.
Now, in the last, well, it's not the last, but in my slideshow here, because we can't show everything in this
Yeah.
comic book. That looks like a cannon, and it's firing something, I guess,
Yeah.
into the volcano, or it might be a volcano.
That one, I believe he's actually hitting uh, one of the vehicles. He's firing it into the air like a flat cannon.
Right. And we're on
Uh,
issue, what, 2?
two. Yeah.
No, 1, right?
No, we're on issue 2 now.
Yeah, issue 2. Yeah. I'm just kind of looking back at what I have in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, what did you like about issue 2?
Well, we get some great moments in there. We start seeing Magneto where like the heroes don't trust him. Like really don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
There's one moment in it on one of the pages where Spider-Man's going against Magneto, and literally he's like he's wrapped in a ball of metal. He's like, "Wahoo! Hey, guys, it's Magneto!" And Ben, the thing, he's like, "Yeah, we kind of figured that out, kid."
Yeah.
Um, so there's some great moments in this where you see where what was it like Doom basically tries to hitch a ride with Galactics out of this
Right.
place, and the Beyonder just zaps him like a bug.
Right.
And that's when Doom kind of starts realizing that, oh hey, um, you know, I can do a lot more with this. With this power, like why is everybody thinking so small, but I'm thinking so big.
Yeah. And I kind of like that King or King,
Yeah, Kang
uh,
the Conqueror. Yeah,
yeah, was in this as well because he had to do with his own realm and everything, and
yeah,
it's kind of interesting that Beyonder would choose him to come into Battle World.
yeah. One thing I will say, with the egos on these supervillains, I'm surprised anybody survives.
I know, especially with Galactus. How
Yeah,
huge he is and how he can take the
entire worlds.
yeah
And in the first issue, he basically agrees to this because he basically says, "So you could grant me a reprieve from this hunger of living worlds."
yes.
So I like that. That's really cool.
And I know people can't see it, but towards the end, which they say next issue, First Blood, which is more towards the end, um, the villains in one of the panels says we're under attack.
Yeah,
Well, the Beyonder is the one doing the attacking to
yeah,
get the villains and the superheroes into his little playground, basically.
yeah. This actually reminds me, looking at it now, it
Mhm.
reminds me of an episode of Star Trek, the original series,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
where they end up there on the planet and they've got like some of the humanity's worst villains on one side and the greatest heroes, and like one of them is Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, I understand you've only got so much Kent Clark with it, but you know, you sit there and you're like, well, okay, what's wrong? You couldn't get Gandhi to show up too?
Exactly.
But it reminds me of that type of moment where you're looking at the best of the humanity has to offer and the worst it has to offer.
Now I'm trying to remember what Doom's interest in this whole thing was because he's kind of neutral in the
He
beginning.
he is. He just wants the power because he realizes that they'll grant us this power of that would make immortality seem like nothing.
Hmm.
So he's looking at this as the long game,
Right.
rather than just, oh well, rather than having just wealth or power or something like that. We could ask for the power of the Beyonder.
Right. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Moving along. And this is what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Now, Marvel put out in one of the issues, basically folded out the Secret Wars Battle World and how it was all broken up. And
yeah,
it's not a really good image because you can't see what it's saying about each of the little sections that are colored.
yeah. I remember my friend's older brother had the poster of this in his room.
Oh, I'm sure it was epic, right?
It was, and we'd always try to sneak in there to look at it, and he'd be like, "Get out of my room!"
Because it was so interesting.
It was. Um, and looking back now, I
Mhm.
understand because we were going into his private space without asking.
Right.
But at the same time, I think we could be friends if we were a little older and, really enjoyed just talking comics with him.
Yeah.
Because he was like 6 or 7 years older than us.
Uh, I just remember when those came out and people were like, "Look at this! This is so cool!" Battle World. And I
Yeah.
was, I was just like, I was young and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't really understand the impact of it.
Yeah.
Um, but I did read Secret Wars years later, and it was really fun.
Absolutely. I just wanted to give people an idea of how big this alternate universe was.
Josh, that would be a very interesting comic book.
What was it? He said
Oh, imagine Lincoln as a comic book hero.
he fights for justice, delivering independence, and using document scrolls for. Oh my God.
If you
Josh
want a good,
has such
if
an
you want,
imagination.
if you want a good read though,
Hmm.
for both of you, check out Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
Oh, wasn't that a movie too?
It
They
was
made?
a movie. It was a movie. Um, but the book is so much better because it's written like it's his own diary.
Oh, okay.
And it's very intriguing. So they did that really well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. All
The
right.
movie's not so great.
Yeah. So we're gonna go on to our next slide.
Hmm.
Moving along, number
Ah,
3.
yes.
It's awesome.
At the end of the second issue, I should also point out,
Hmm.
yes, he's a vampire hunter, James. um, at the end of the second issue, we also see the Thing revert to Ben Grimm form, the human form.
Correct.
And that was something that no one had ever seen since the birth of the Fantastic Four origin.
Hmm.
So it was really cool to see.
Yeah.
It took them 20 plus years, but we got there.
Yeah. And I like this one because The cover is becoming more vibrant. We see Spider Man, which he was introduced in issue number 2 as
Hmm.
well. Um, but now you see him more prominent in 3.
Yeah. And Mutron, I was absolutely right there with you. I have my Doctor Doom and my Iron Man from that line that I purchased in the 80s, and they are very rough shape
Yes.
right now. But I had no idea they were tied to the comic books at the time
Yeah.
because I didn't have the packaging anymore.
So you didn't find out until later into my teens. Yeah. And what's awesome when I got this graphic novel, they explain um, how the line impacted the comic book as well. And
Mm. If I remember right, the Secret Wars toys had those
Mhm.
lenticular shields that you
Yeah,
could put on. Yeah, and they change what that looks like. That was such a cool thing back in the 80s.
I kind of wish I would have put that here at the end of our slideshow, but I don't know if people can see it. I'll kind of show it. Can I? Can I? Oh, can't see it
Mm.
because of my background. But it's
Yeah.
really cool. It's got those shields, and they're kind of hologram type.
Yeah, the lenticular. Uh,
Yes,
yeah, where if you change the way you're looking at it, it'll change the image.
and they were cool.
They were. I still love those lenticular type images today.
And I bet you they cost a lot of money on eBay now.
Oh yeah.
Um, well, this is kind of introducing Doctor Doom and creating 2 new villains,
Yeah.
Volcana and what's the other one? Tata
Titania.
Titania,
Yeah.
which you see in the second image here on the screen, right above number 3 of Secret Wars. You see him creating in that kind of like I don't know what you would call it, like a chamber.
Yeah.
But also you see Magneto embracing with I forget her name.
Let me just take a look here.
You remember who she Magneto's love interest was?
Not offhand. Give me a second though.
Okay.
Uh, uh, they were trying to kind of push the love interest towards the Wasp.
Right, right, right,
Um, they were also pushing kind of Enchantress as Doom's kind of love interest.
right. But this is a good issue. I think we kind of get an idea of what Doom is going to be doing in this, issue. There was a cover that I didn't put in there because they didn't make the cut, where it says "Temperance without crisis within." Was when you open up the comic book, basically.
Okay, Mutron. Interesting. Mint Magneto and a Wolverine that looks like he got into a fight with a blender. The blender won.
Oh my god, he's killing me. Let's see what Stacy says. Also, the
I'm gonna
blender
check
usually does.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Rogue. Magneto's been with Rogue. He's been with, well, the shorter list is who he hasn't been with. Same with Doom.
Yeah.
But I just looked up some of the figures on eBay,
Right.
and you pretty much can't get the shields themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like the figures, and these are like graded figures, okay? Uh, they start at about $200. A Spider-Man will run you $450.
Mm,
Wolverine is the cheapest at 170.
I wonder
And then,
why.
yeah, the black costume Spider-Man though is only 293 only.
I thought it'd be more.
Yeah,
As well.
Cap's 205. Doctor Doom is 260. You know, like this was a huge line back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, and a pre-owned Falcon with the shield and the pet bird, like without the packaging, is $140. Um, oh wow! And you can even get the Secret Messages figure, Secret Wars Messages figure, mint in seal, mint on card, sealed decoder wheel shields,
Hmm.
and of course the Legends brand has their own series of Beyonder
Yeah.
for 40. But like honestly, wow, Doc Ock's only 80.
That's weird.
Uh, yeah. They've got an Iron Man here, which is the same one I have. I don't have it near me right now.
Right.
Um, for 175.
Right. Okay.
But I remember these figures, and I had no clue they were going to be worth this much. None of us did when we were growing up.
Oh no, no, no. To us, it was just toys.
Yeah, and of our favorite characters.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, Josh says them
Yeah,
toy prices. I blame Toy Federation channel
you
and
do.
Froggy Flips channel. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, they can take some blame. The only true survivor was Juice Man. He now talks Chris
talk to
on
Chris.
Fortnite under the name of Juice World. Oh my
Uh,
god.
yeah, but I mean, you know, back then these were just toys to us. You
Oh
take them
yeah.
out to the sandbox, you have a great time with them.
And also, what people don't see in our slideshow was the power that Thor had in probably the third or fourth page of this issue.
Yeah.
And I think he was kind of showing off a little bit.
Well, to be fair, Thor was always kind of a boastful hero.
Hmm.
Um, like he's literally like asteroids and of course She-Hulk is also in this one,
Yep,
basically bench pressing a small nuclear reactor.
exactly. And that's what we don't see in our slideshow because what was great about these comic books is there's so much stuff that for my slideshow we could be here for days.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I just picked out the good choices to explain the story along.
Yeah. And I highly recommend, if you've never read Secret Wars, check it out. Chances are you can find some pretty good copies either in thrift stores or get an omnibus at a really good price on like Barnes and Noble, Amazon,
Hmm.
wherever, or your local comic shop. I'm sure they'd appreciate you stopping by,
Hmm.
putting in an order.
Also,
um,
I'm sure those older issues, single issues, would be cheaper in a comic book store.
oh yeah. Yeah. Especially if you like, my comic book store used to have a huge backlog
Hmm.
of old issues. They don't now because it's all like tabletop gaming and stuff. And I get that. You got to look at what's going to bring you the most money.
Hmm.
But I know places, especially down like where you are in San Diego.
Right.
I know places that have huge just back issues.
Oh yeah.
And chances are, if you want it, they've got it, or they can get it.
Exactly. I've gone to this one place. This guy has a big, huge warehouse, and it's just it's unorganized though, but only
Mm,
thing that part of his shop that's organized are the more current comics. But
mm,
all the old issues, I mean, there's just tons and tons and tons of boxes. And he's like,
mm.
he goes,
And I
go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, and I know like where Josh lives, out in like southern Ontario,
Yeah.
there's Heroes Comics, which is like eventually I want to go there. My bank account dreads that day.
Now, my impression is Doom is like the now the leader of the villains in this issue number 3.
Yeah, um, absolutely. You know, it's because Doom is now preaching that hey, we can have more than just riches
Yeah.
and immortality. We could create our own galaxies, our own universes,
Mhm.
and we could rule them as gods.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of like that because it shows that Doom's thirst for power is just never ending. No matter what he gets, he's always going to want more.
Exactly. And that's Doom's mentality. He wants to be
Yeah,
all knowing, all powerful.
yeah, and it's very interesting to see this. Like I said, the writing back then was cheesy, but it was good for us.
Yeah.
Um, Also, it taught us a lot about reading. We'd have to figure out, the enunciation of each word.
Now, also, which we don't see in the sideshow, there is a conversation between Magneto and Doom, and Magneto says, "I'm not interested in an alliance."
Yeah,
Because Doom was kind of asking him, hey, you want to be on our side? You want to create an alliance?
yeah, and Magneto basically says, I choose to make my own way, Doom.
Exactly.
Um, and basically Doom's like, okay, so be it. Then your choice. You can't take this back,
Mhm.
and you will regret this.
And then,
And that's when he gets in with the Wasp, kind of
yeah,
Janet Van Dyne.
yeah. And then after their conversation, that's when Magneto created his two powerful villains, both female.
Yeah,
And I kind of find that interesting that they chose both females for these particular new villains.
yeah, yeah. That's when we see Volcana and Titania.
Exactly.
And they're still in comics today. At least Titania is. Um, the last appearance I saw of her was in the Fear Itself uh, crossover event, where basically they get hold of Asgardian weaponry. Nothing quite like the Wrecking Crew with Asgardian weapons. Nothing could go wrong there.
Yeah.
Yes, double D. Yes, there it is, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, in this issue, they show some of the villains in these cryogenic chambers.
yeah.
I don't know if they were for regeneration. I totally forgot. You know,
Let's see. Those he's actually experimenting on Volcana and Titania.
okay.
And when they come out, she's like a foot and a half taller,
Hmm.
and Volcana can uh, is now on fire, and she's like, well, she's like, all that power inside me, I can change back to human, can't I? You said I'd be able to. Meanwhile, Titania is like, I don't ever want to change.
Also, it shows Thor going to one of those chambers and looking in.
Yeah, these are this is kind of the jail system they have. It's a psychostasis field.
There you go.
and it's interesting. And basically, like in the first issue or second issue, one of the two,
Hmm.
Reed says that it's a very humane prison system.
Interesting. So, what did you think about issue number 3 altogether?
I thought it was. I really enjoyed issue 3,
Hmm.
um, because we're getting to see a lot more of things, and at this point, Molecule Man's kind of all on board with Doom,
You're right.
which should worry everybody. And we're ending the issue with the villains finally taking the fight to the heroes,
Right.
and that's where we start really seeing what Secret Wars is going to do.
Right.
Um, and I love this series overall, but it isn't until about issue 5 or 6 that it really starts to get going.
Right. This is just a slow
Yeah,
grind.
they're setting a slow burn,
Yeah. They're
which works for me.
yeah. They're setting up the villains. They're getting the superheroes. Uh,
Yeah,
some, I think in issue 5 you're going to see some bickering between the superheroes and villains,
yeah.
which is
Again, I'm not, like the villains have egos, and you can't tell me that the heroes don't either.
oh no, yeah. I'm sure this.
Especially Tony.
Yeah, Tony exactly. Um, okay, let's go on to the next issue, which is number 4. And
Yeah.
I love this one because it's centered around Hulk.
Yes.
And
And back in the '80s, I won't say they didn't use Hulk, but they didn't know how to use him properly.
exactly.
Um, and again, the artwork, it's very kind of uniform.
Hmm.
Like, honestly, you couldn't look at one of these issues um, and tell it was a different artist unless it was like Kirby or Romita Senior or something like that. But even then, there was still that uniformity to it that you kind of, oh, okay, this is a Marvel book. And Josh, I thought you already were a supervillain.
So if Josh wants to be a grown up as a supervillain, what does that make Jay?
I don't know. I'm almost afraid to ask.
I kind of wonder because he's a more of a Daredevil fan. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the cover for this
Hmm.
issue.
Yeah.
Beneath 150 billion tons stands the Hulk, and he's not happy.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know if you can read it. Can you read the plot for issue number
Okay, let
4?
me take a look here.
I know it's kind of small.
I can actually enter full screen mode, and then it's not too bad because I'm on like a 30-inch monitor.
Okay.
Plot of Secret Wars number 4: The Discovery. God Doom becomes aware that Stephen Strange has found survivors from the destroyed universes, including Reed Richards. Confrontation: Doom confronts the survivors, uh, remind, demanding that they kneel before him and acknowledge his authority. Defiance: the heroes refuse to submit to Doom. They always do. Cyclops, empowered by the Phoenix Force, attacks Doom. Doom's power display. Doom easily defeats Cyclops, demonstrating his godlike power by breaking his neck. Okay.
Mm.
Strange's sacrifice. Stephen Strange, realizing that Reed Richards would never accept Doom's rule and would continue to fight him, teleports the surviving heroes away to a location that is not revealed in this issue.
Exactly.
Doom's fury.
Yeah.
Doom, enraged by Strange's betrayal, confronts him. Despite Strange's powerful magic, Doom swiftly and completely obliterates him. I remember that.
Yeah.
And Doom later on they go on to mention Doom uses magic, as a long history of magic in it. The escape. The surviving heroes, including Reed Richards, are now in hiding, presumably plotting to overthrow Doom and restore their abilities or their realities.
Yes.
Yes. Um, and it's funny because Doom gets godlike powers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But just that, like in today's comics, that issue alone would take like 5 issues.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they're skimping out on it, they just knew how to condense things.
Exactly. Now, previous to this, which would be the second one off to your right,
Yeah,
um, you see Hawkeye taking one of his exploding arrows
yeah,
and shooting it into the air, which explodes the rock.
yeah. And exploding a chunk of rock that big, I'm wondering what small nuclear weapon he was using.
I know exactly. It's not government approved. I can tell you that.
Certainly not. And if
Uh,
it is, it's not our government's.
exactly. What did you like about this particular issue the most?
I really
Ken?
like how the artwork is coming along. You're seeing it going into more darker,
Mm-hmm.
grittier tones for this era, which is saying something. Um, they're really playing on those shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that the lighting looks just right. Like there's one panel with Doom,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got all the villains behind him, and his face just looks beautiful with just like the chrome, and then there's lines of shadow on it. They
Oh yeah.
really did well. The writing,
Yeah.
it's getting better. Um, it's starting to feel more realistic,
Yes.
um, especially since they're not like explaining their own powers over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I know that even back then, I know that there were people who only read certain comic titles. So you might not be familiar with the X-Men or Storm or Colossus or anything like that. I get
Mm-hmm.
it. We all have our titles that we stick with. Darth Negan. That'd be interesting.
Darth Negan.
Only lightsaber wrapped with barbed wire. Um, but I really like it because the writers are really coming into their own and understanding how to really make this a special event
Right.
without having to keep reiterating.
And I love the expression on Captain America. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, the shadowing in this is really good.
Yeah.
Um, in a lot of comics, I've found, especially during like the '70s, the expressions weren't the greatest.
No.
Like it almost felt like you know they were trying to draw something that the facial expression just wasn't there for that character.
Also, in this issue, which we don't see on the slides, Magneto and Wasp are having a conversation. I guess it would be his lab area.
Yeah,
And in one of the panels, you see Professor X standing up because he has the
yeah,
ability to stand now without the wheelchair, and
yeah,
all the X Men behind him. And I guess he makes a comment to them, and I forget what they say and respond. You have
yeah.
your you have your digital copy, right?
Yeah. He basically says that as a force independent of that under Captain America's command, there is much good we might do. Um, and Magneto's basically telling her, saying, that Wasp and I were just discussing this.
Hmm.
Um, and he's basically justifying it, saying, we must fight to the death and win. Janet agrees with me, don't you, my dear? Meg, you're a pompous, overbearing jerk. Cute, though. Did you really think I'd ever consider going along with your sick plans? I've just been playing along to find out what you're up to.
Do you think
And
that? Oh, go ahead,
and
sorry.
and basically calls him like the most evil scum since a certain short Austrian guy in the 30s and 40s.
Now, do you think then that the X Men at this point even trust Magneto?
No, by this point, absolutely not. Um, it's at that point where they know what he is like.
Right. Also, which is not on the slides. Wolverine is attacking, and I think Wasp uh,
Yeah,
goes down to her little small state.
yeah, and basically takes out the X-Men.
Exactly.
And they're Storm's like, we deserved it. We reacted slowly, no teamwork. She caught us flat-footed, clobbered us. And Wolverine's like, first Spider-Man trashes us, and now the Wasp. I've had it with getting dumped on my butt.
Exactly.
And and I like that because it acknowledges that she's so small you can't see her, but her energy beams are really powerful.
Oh yeah.
Um, and in issue 1, they also mention like with Professor X having a wheelchair and everything. They said, oh, they probably also refilled Spider-Man's web fluid cartridges. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Also, we, which is not on the slides. I gotta mention that because people can't see it. What we're seeing,
Yeah,
um, that Peter Parker, his web slinger, he's they're starting getting these cool weapons that the Beyonder would
yeah,
not they would not normally have. But
yeah.
you
And this
know
is the part where they're trapped basically under a planet.
exactly,
And Hulk's basically the only thing keeping the air pocket from collapsing on them.
exactly, and Iron Man's trying to use his power to blast out of
Yeah,
that area,
yeah,
of that little pocket area, which you see in the very first cover of
yeah,
issue number 4.
yeah.
Now, I forget her name. What's her name? Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart here.
Which one?
The one with the poofy hair,
Oh, Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. There you go. See,
Yeah,
I'm having a pretty thing. They,
yeah. That is 1970s Captain Marvel.
yes, and looks totally different from what today is.
Yeah, the Captain Marvel today got her power later on, I think, in the 90s.
Right, right. And then is that the Enchantress that's with one of the Fantastic Four?
Enchantress. Let me take a look here. Um, I don't believe it is. Oh, yeah, it is. She's with Thor.
Right.
Um, Fantastic Four are still trapped under there.
Mhm.
Um, so we've got that. Yeah.
The lady with the gray hair and the robes.
Oh, that's just one of the local indigenous.
That's right. That's right. And they're helping Spider-Man. One of them is helping Spider-Man.
And She-Hulk, and yeah, basically just helping them survive.
Yeah. And then that's towards the end. That's when you see Brim transform from thing back to his human form,
Yeah,
which I thought was very interesting because you don't see that in the comics when he's back on his regular home planet.
yeah.
Uh, but toward
I think it was revealed later that he can only change back on Battle World.
right, Josh says it seems cool so far. I hope you guys enjoy it so far because we just want me and Den of Geek just want people to get more interested in comics. I think reading comics is a dying form, and
Absolutely.
I think we need
Either
to,
digitally or physically.
yeah, I think more people need to start reading more because
Yeah.
we're in this generation. It's all internet. It's all TV.
Movies.
As kids of our generation, we read books. We were immersed into our own world.
Yeah, because you know, we got 1 day of cartoons a week and maybe the odd one after school.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
9 times out of 10 that was a rerun.
Or the Snoopy cartoons, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Once a month, or holidays, I should say, like
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Christmas. I think there's a Christopher Columbus one for Peanuts. I'm not sure.
Hmm. And James Lucas says, very interesting. I mainly remember the toys being promoted like crazy.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Um, but yeah, it's crazy. Like back then, you had the DC superpowers line going toe to toe with Secret Wars
Yeah,
toy line,
yeah,
and that was Marvel and DC versus DC for us right there. And most of us didn't care which one company over the other.
no, no. We just love the toys.
Exactly, and so we won on both fronts.
Exactly. I remember my mom giving me a choice. You either want DC or you gonna want Marvel.
Yeah.
And I
And
always said
I was allowed one figure of that line.
exactly. So was I, and so I chose DC, which was Batman.
Mm.
And
The very first figure that I bought,
mhm.
well, that I remember getting, was Green Arrow from the Superpowers
Ooh,
line,
ooh, Green
and
Arrow.
I've been a fan of his ever since. I thought it was Robin Hood at the time, but hey, I was 3.
You're like, this is cool. It's Robin Hood.
Yeah, I didn't care. I still love Green Arrow to this day. I think he's an underrated hero.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're not doing DC is not doing justice by exploring him more in
No.
today's comics.
If they want to go through a fun storyline, I suggest the Kevin Smith storyline, but that's just me.
Yeah. Also, towards the end of issue 4, we see Galactus
Yeah,
up on top of a rock, and he's just like up here, like, look at
yeah,
me.
standing a vigil, as
Yeah,
they put it in the book.
yeah.
Yeah, probably still recovering after being hit by that force field.
And then you see Reed Richards. Oh no, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it says at the end of it, Battle of Four Armies.
yeah,
Okay, that was interesting. And let's go to Number 5.
Ah, yes. I love this cover of Secret Wars.
Oh yeah, so do I.
Because you've got literally three sides attacking each other.
Yeah,
And I love how the villains are just kind of in the silhouette mode. They're just in the shadows.
you're right.
And, X-Men, you're not really sure who they're trying to go after.
Yeah. And you kind of see the X-Men and all the superheroes, even Iron Man getting chained up. Uh,
Yeah.
Doc Ock going after his favorite
Arachnid.
superhero, Spider
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah. I really love the effect around Nightcrawler or his teleportation at this point. They really did it well.
Yes.
Um, I've always been a fan of the blue elf. He's hilarious. He's fun. Um, Especially when he's partnered up with Gambit. I think they make a great kind of comedic duo. And Rogue looks so different back in the early '80s.
Yeah.
Like that hairstyle. Wow, Rogue, what'd you do? Lose a bet?
Kind of looks like a skunk.
Yeah. And again, that kind of stays the same up until about the '90s when we get the Jim Lee run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which, again, another great run of comics.
Yeah. And I like this one down below from the front cover where it shows the superheroes and then the
Yeah.
villains and all their little faces,
Yeah. Kind of,
expression.
yeah. I really like that as well. Because it kind of feels like a playbill almost, where you start to understand who's doing what.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, by the fifth issue, a lot's happened.
Yes. Tremendous. Um, I think above it, if you can see it, is the two. I don't know if they're kinetically. Right.
Telepathically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Pathetically.
Yeah.
Talking to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's basically uh, she's, yeah, basically using telepathy,
Hmm.
talking about teammates, allies, kind of who they hold in doubt, the villains, you know,
Hmm.
Galactus, who we're still waiting for him to do something besides fly off and get zapped like a mosquito.
Yeah. Now you didn't see much of Ultron in the last couple of issues, but he shows up in this one.
Yeah. And Doom basically rebuilt Ultron to be his servant in this.
Yeah.
Um, but again, that last panel of Doom on the far right there, I love the fact that they're using shadow to
Yeah.
really accentuate it.
Yeah. And I think this issue, you see more of the fighting between the villains and the superheroes.
Yeah,
But also, there was one page you see Professor X. I guess, how would you explain it? He's basically getting in the mind of.
uh, uh, let me just see. Oh, for Colossus when he's in his human form.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And which you don't see Colossus too much in his human form that much.
No, I mean outside the X-Men comics, no, not much.
Yeah.
Even in the X-Men comics, he doesn't.
And I think I don't know if
I mean, and the fact, like, he's basically screaming at Colossus, Colossus, come at once. Well, that would creep me the hell out too.
exactly,
Because
exactly.
he's sitting there thinking about Kitty Pride and, romantic and, do you miss me as much as I miss you and everything. Suddenly, Professor X starts screaming in his head.
Exactly. It's kind of weird that someone can read your thoughts and
Yeah,
know what you're thinking. You know.
yeah, that's crazy. Um, Although it's just another day in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. And now I know why Magneto always hated Professor X because that's why he wore the helmet all the time. He didn't want someone in his head.
Even more so with Juggernaut.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely Juggernaut. Um,
But no, it's an interesting concept. It's not a power I would want.
exactly.
I
But
have enough trouble controlling my own thoughts, folks. I don't need everybody else's around me.
yeah, I think at this point the villains are really forming a good alliance.
Yeah,
They're putting all their talents to good use and kind of following what Doom kind of wants.
yeah. And one of the panels that you're showing there,
Right,
we're seeing Thor without his helmet, which is very uncommon.
right, yes.
So it's the Secret Wars. Um, One of the things I love is we're starting also to see like more wear and tear on clothing.
Hmm.
Like one of the wrecking crew, like his uniform is almost completely destroyed.
Absolutely.
Um,
Now, do you remember? I'm sorry. Do you
yeah,
remember who? I don't know if that was Ultron or something else, somebody else fighting the thing in this issue.
uh,
It looks like a big, huge metal type.
yeah. Uh, okay. It's actually just a general drone.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Ultron, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's some really great moments in this issue.
Hmm.
Uh, like one point, uh, the villains take a shot at Colossus,
Yeah.
and basically, it looks like basically Cyclops almost incinerates them.
Right.
And we know they're not dead because comic code, folks. Mhm.
Hmm. Absolutely. Also, it looks like Colossus gets injured towards the end.
Yeah,
Um, there's Iron Man by his side. Uh,
yeah, and like I love the fact that they acknowledge that in his human form, outside of the
mhm.
metal, he's quite vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and basically, Reed has been spending most of his time trying to get Galactus's attention.
Yeah. I just feel like Reed Richards is very smart, intelligent. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. Um, and but they later on in the comics, if I remember correctly, they do mention like he has a tendency to overthink things.
yes.
And as someone who does that for a living, uh, doing tech work and everything, I openly admit I overthink things.
And that's normal because, you know,
Yeah,
um, I think when we know a lot about, especially your field, you know a lot. And I think people get not full of themselves, but over anxious of
yeah.
their knowledge.
They try to analyze things to a point where they can't make a mistake, and I admit I'm guilty of that.
Hmm.
And the problem is sometimes the making that mistake is going to teach you a lot more than
Right.
not making it.
Right.
Believe me, I've learned that lesson a few times.
And I find it very interesting that you and Matt are kind of in the same boat. It's
Yeah,
like because sometimes when Matt says something, sometimes it goes over my head. I'm like, huh, what?
yeah, and I know that I do that. I've seen it with Jay where I've made a comment and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Jay, I'm mentioning something you just spoke about like 30 seconds ago." And he's like, "Oh, we moved on from that."
Exactly. But
But
that I think it's good that people that have really good knowledge, computer based wise, tech wise, um,
yeah,
have us a better understanding of what's really going on, in the tech world.
yeah. Um, and for comics, my brain literally uh just remembers all sorts of useless stuff.
Yeah,
um, and it's a blessing and a curse.
absolutely. So, what
But
do you take out of issue number 5?
what we're starting to see both sides becoming more cohesive as a unit.
Correct.
We're seeing that we're also seeing like Reed Richards points out that hey, Galactus is planning something. He's calculating something. He's not just standing there. His brain is working overtime to figure something out.
Hmm.
And usually when Galactus does something like that, it's not going to be good for those watching.
Yeah,
Um, and of course, Doom is still making his power play. And, so we're seeing a lot happening in a very condensed region of space in terms of like the amount of pages these books have.
all right.
Um, because I know for a fact that, you know, they had to do this because there's no way they could have spread it out over multiple issues beyond 12. You know, like you'd have to explain that to a lot of readers.
All
And not
right.
only that, but also to the vendors because if you're going to commit to 12 issues, that's a year's worth of issues.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to do more than that, you have to justify to the vendors why is it worth taking up more of your shelf space.
Exactly. And I think when this came out too, a lot of comic books were putting these right out right away, and
Oh yeah.
they're wanting to get people interested in it big time.
Oh yeah. This was a huge event for readers. They've managed to do amazing things in like 5 issues here. They've done more than most comics could do in 5 issues.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know some people, and I've had this discussion at my own comic shop, where they're like, "Well, it was too short. They didn't expand on it properly," and I disagree. I agree and I disagree at the same time. I agree that it feels too short
Hmm.
and that it feels kind of condensed. But at the same time, the fact that Marvel was willing to take a chance on such a major crossover for a year,
Right.
that said something.
Absolutely.
Because then you had readers from Spider-Man, Captain America, the X-Men, all of them. They were basically just buying one issue
Hmm.
each month, primarily. And so it was a risk that Marvel took, but I think it paid off because it also got fans that were usually just Spider-Man, Captain America, or X-Men or whatever to expand their reading base because they started seeing the interest in the other characters. Um, like I was not a huge Fantastic Four fan growing up,
Hmm.
um, but I got there. I started reading a few of their storylines over the years because of Secret War.
Right.
So
Yeah, I like that this was also a great marketing ploy to get people interested in other
Mm,
comics, not just one particular comic.
yeah, yeah, they did it very well. Their marketing department understood what they were doing. And then you throw in the toy line, you got kids going nuts for that.
Right,
And even if they're not buying the comics, they're buying the toys.
exactly. So you're getting ready for these kids to later on want to be comic book fans.
Yeah, yeah, because once you play with the toys, you're going to want to see what the professional writers are creating for adventures.
Exactly. Okay, issue number 6.
I absolutely love this cover.
Yeah.
Um, just the fact that you've got Galactus in the background with his hands stretched out like
Mhm.
he's using all the villains as puppets.
Right.
And we're seeing the Lizard and Claw on the cover, and we're seeing villains that normally don't get the cover.
No.
So you know that's really cool. Although we've got Doctor Doom, we've got Enchantress, Ultron, and
Hmm.
Doc Ock. They always get the cover.
Right.
Same with Lizard to a point. But
Right.
Wrecking Crew, they don't get a lot of them.
You know
Uh,
what the Wrecking Crew reminds me of?
what?
Images Wildcats.
Oh yes, yes. I absolutely loved that comic,
Hmm.
and I loved the cartoon.
Right.
There's '90s for you.
Exactly. Okay, I'm going to read what it says down below. It says, reveals the source of Doom's power, sets the stage for an upcoming confrontation, explores the nature of Battleworld, further establish the conflict with God Doom's domain.
Yeah,
Says it
and
all.
yeah, and I mean by this point, Doom had godlike powers,
Yeah.
and you know that's really cool. We start to see him get serious powers, and we're also starting to see more of Galactus in this issue.
Hmm. What
Um,
we Go ahead.
and it's interesting because like he basically Doom's trying to create villains,
Right.
and it's interesting because he wants to win this in the worst ways possible.
True. 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 All right. Um, what we don't see in the slide is Wasp um, trying to help out, I guess, the ship,
Yeah,
and she uses her powers, which are really really cool. Almost like how would you call it? Like a blaster,
yeah, kind of an energy beam.
yeah, energy beam. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and yeah, and we start to see a lot more of her, and we also see the Lizard more in this.
yeah, and the lizard. I, I I just feel like he's a great villain, but he's I don't know. How do you feel like?
I enjoy the Lizard storylines in Spider-Man comics because they kind of make sense in those comics.
Mhm.
Having him in Battle World, it kind of feels almost like an afterthought. Like, oh hey, how about we put the Lizard in there? It's like that old Sesame Street thing. One of these things isn't like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. Um, and it feels like that with Lizard.
Yeah.
And I mean, at this point, he was a very serious villain for Spider-Man, and that's great.
Yeah.
um, but it just it. I don't know. I know Doom's creating new villains or recreating. Excuse me. Recreating villains, but it's the Lizard just he doesn't really kind of fit in my mind.
Right. Gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, we also see Doom here. I guess he's.
Yeah, that's when he's creating more villains like Claw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are correct.
Yeah. And Claw looks a lot different than he did in the Black Panther movie.
It's so weird how we see stuff in Marvel movies, and you're like, I don't remember it being that way. You know.
No, but I can live with it for what it is.
Yeah. Towards the end of this issue, you see something like a big machine. Um, Picking up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the heroes or no, the villains have discovered a new toy with a stasis ray,
Right.
which is like an ATV on steroids.
Exactly. This could be like something from GI Joe, right?
It could. And at the time they were writing GI Joe, so you never know.
Could have been a crossover. So
Yeah.
that'd be interesting if we had it's Chad here, what he would
Yeah.
think about this particular vehicle.
Oh, knowing Chad, he'd want one.
You know it. You know it.
There's very few vehicles Chad says no to.
And he gets ones that were never created and has them in actual toy form. You know.
Yeah. No, not Dr. Claw, just Claw with a K. Josh.
Oh, Dr. Claw. Oh yeah, from Spectre Gadget.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Um, what I got out of this issue was the villains are up to no good. They're going to do everything in their power to beat the superheroes,
Yeah.
and of course, the guy that brought them all into this realm, he's just laughing up there. You know, it's just like I got my toys to play with. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, towards the end, you see Galactus standing. Um,
Yeah. Still plotting, I'm sure, and preparing things.
yeah, and I can't wait for the next issue, number 7.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Number 7 has some serious repercussions rolling in.
yeah, I, let's see where we go. That one. I love this
And
cover.
it absolutely, I love the fact that they've done this so well.
Yeah,
If I saw this on a comic book stand,
yeah,
I'd be looking at it for sure.
exactly. And you can see Captain America standing in the background, very tall.
Yep. And, the death of an Avenger, the X-Men's greatest battle,
Mm-hmm.
and the all new Spider-Woman.
Yes,
That was a big deal.
absolutely. And I think they explained her crossover from her comic book.
Yeah.
But what we don't see in this slide is on the first page it says Berserker. And then Wonder Woman looking at the Human Torch as he flies by. And
Yeah.
then her saying, I'm Spider Woman.
Yeah. And Cap's like, "You speak English. You're from Earth. You're a different lady than the Spider Woman we knew."
Exactly.
And, reads like, "Oh, well, the Beyonder used fragments of many planets to build this world. I assume you were on one of them. A whole
Exactly.
suburb of Denver. We just suddenly found ourselves here."
And I think that that's what our readers don't understand. They took different planets and made it
Yeah.
into the one battle world, as they call it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's amazing to see what they were doing. This, I think, was one of the first multiverse kind of references with Spider Woman,
Hmm.
and it's a great part of this storyline because it introduces a familiar character with a new look.
Yes. And she's also, I don't know if it's it kind of shows blueness, but it is a black outfit that she's.
Yeah. Well, they had that goes back to the coloring issue
Yeah.
because it was very hard to get gradients of black
Right.
back then. So a lot of it came off as blue.
I'm wondering, since they didn't have great process back then to do comic books with coloring, um, if they reprinted it today, would they make it more what they wanted? You know.
If they were to redo it, I think they would.
But you know what?
Um,
I kind of like the older version because it,
yeah.
it it shows where we were at the time in comic books.
Also, I really like the feel of the paper they used back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't really glossy paper,
Nope.
it was just pulp paper. So when you felt it, it wasn't a very um, fine grade paper. It felt like, this is something we print with the remnants of the paper,
Right.
which is great. It does a great job of that.
Mm-hmm. And then we get more of that particular vehicle that the villains are using, and
Yeah.
also you see She-Hulk and the Hulk going after the machine.
Yeah. Yeah. And um, you know, and this is another case of, someone dies, but hey, they'll get better later.
Exactly. Also, I don't know what she's doing with that character's head.
Uh, Apparently trying to heal her,
Yes.
but yeah,
I think this issue is a, a little bit more complex.
it certainly has darker undertones.
Yes. And I think at this point, the heroes are getting frustrated with each other,
Yeah.
especially Thor.
Yeah.
It seems like they're starting to unravel a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would definitely agree with that. They've been stuck on Battle World for however long.
Right.
It's not like they're showing us day and night cycles. So, chances are they're getting frustrated because you're dealing with villains who seem to know your move before you're going to make it.
Right. Oh, what was I gonna say? What do you think Cyclops' mission was in this comic book?
Um, I think his mission more than anything was just trying to make peace
Hmm.
and try to figure out what's going on exactly. Um, you know, trying to figure out what Doom is up to
Right.
and just trying to, figure that out. And I will say this, it's very strange seeing Professor X walking.
Oh yeah, I know.
um, and I love the fact that, you know, Absorbing Man absorbed something and Wolverine chopped off his arm.
Yes.
Like, okay, I guess you can't absorb that.
No.
Well,
No.
I'm sure he'll reabsorb his arm. He's done it many times in the comics.
Exactly.
But um like even like they're pointing out in one panel
Hmm.
that, you know, Lizard killed the Wasp.
Right.
Um uh and, Lizard is taking offense to it, like, you killed the Wasp.
Yeah.
Like, that was my prey.
Hmm. Also, what we don't see in, well, in one part of our side we do, but before that, there was a big, huge fight
Yeah.
with She-Hulk and what's her name,
Titania.
Titania, and she's just really giving it to She-Hulk, and it
Yeah.
seems like the villains at this point are really united, and we
And
also
the heroes are so busy trying to figure out what Doom is doing that they're not focusing on, let's just stop him.
exactly, but you also see Doom kind of messed up a little bit.
Yeah. I will say this, though. The battle between She-Hulk and Titania,
Yep.
better than the one in the Marvel TV show.
Yes. Yes. I did not like the TV show She-Hulk. I did not.
I enjoyed moments of it.
Right.
There were some moments that I kind of went, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Most of the time I was going, no.
Yeah. I mean, they were trying so hard with She-Hulk that I think,
I think they kind of lost the point of She-Hulk.
yeah. Because some people were like, "Oh, she's just a lawyer." Well, yeah, she is a lawyer, but that's
Yeah.
more than,
And like the Daredevil bit and
yeah.
Megan the Stallion.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of hers to begin with, and bringing her in just felt like a celebrity ratings grab. Like they knew that this thing would be going downhill at this point, so let's get in some celebrity that will actually boost our ratings a little.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a fan. For those that are, more power to you. That was not me.
Right.
Um, I did like uh, Bruce Banner being involved in it,
Yes.
trying to explain to her about the transforming and everything.
Hmm.
That was kind of cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love Mark Ruffalo as Banner.
Oh yeah, he's done a wonderful job. Yeah.
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 Even though I grew up originally with the original Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, absolutely. Me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I was watching something on Amazon Prime. Do you remember when they were trying to put out the very first Marvel movie, and they did that horrible version of the Fantastic Four?
In the 90s?
I think I think so. Yeah, it was Stanley said this was going to be the very first Marvel movie, and they were promoting it like crazy. But
Yeah. Yeah. The 90s version that was a travesty.
the graphics on it was horrible.
Yeah. Oh,
It
look.
looks like some kids put it together and said, "Here,
Yeah.
okay,
And
uh,
we've got someone to delete.
yep, add to
She's
block
here.
list." There we go. Goodbye.
Yeah. And yeah, and the 90s, they were trying to do a lot.
Yes.
Um, and like at that point, Stan Lee had always said he wanted Marvel to be more than just a comic book company. He wanted them to become a media empire.
Right.
The problem was it felt like he was trying to rush that
Yes.
in the 90s because he saw that a lot of TV shows were coming out
Hmm.
that were like superhero inspired and everything. But I don't think he was ready. Um, like technologically, they weren't ready.
Right.
Um, I still remember the inspired by Marvel Comics Nightman series.
Oh God. Yeah.
That was bad,
Oh
but
yeah.
it was one of those things where it was so cheesy. I actually enjoyed it.
Or how about that TV show with Spider Man
Oh
and
yes.
how awkward he looked climbing up the walls?
Hmm. Or the fact that his webbing was just a net that was thrown out.
Exactly.
And let's not forget the 90s Captain America movies.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they weren't horrible. I'm not going to say that they were the worst I've ever seen.
No.
They were cheesy, they were fun, and they worked with what they could with at that point.
Yeah. I
Um,
Go ahead.
but I will point out that Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. with David Hasselhoff,
Mm-hmm.
felt kind of like a Michael Knight fever dream.
I never got why Spider Man was part of the electric company.
Yeah, neither did I. I think it was just a way for them to get him on TV.
I wonder if that was Stan Lee's kind of idea, or they just said, "Hey, we'd like to use your Spider Man."
I think that was more them saying, hey, we'd like to use Spider Man. I'm still stunned that Morgan Freeman was on there.
Exactly.
He was, you know, like he's so iconic now, you can't really look at him and go, huh, he was on a kid's show.
Exactly.
That's kind of like looking at Samuel L. Jackson and figuring that, he was on Sesame Street at one point.
Yeah, all these actors that were trying to get into being bigger actors started at these, shows,
Yeah. Well,
kiddie shows.
you have to start somewhere, correct?
Yeah.
And, it's a paying job. And sometimes, I forget which actor it was. I think it was Bruce Campbell that said
Mhm.
it. He said, you love all these really big, important roles and everything. And then there's sometimes you just got to pay the mortgage and the bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Exactly. So, what do you take out of number 7?
Number 7, we're seeing the stakes being raised.
Mhm.
And we're starting to see what exactly Galactus is planning,
Yeah.
which, is great. And the big thing is, though, now they're looking for they aren't looking for justice. They're looking for revenge on the people that took out the Wasp.
All right.
So, yeah. So that's kind of the big part where this starts to take form where you start to realize
Mm,
how serious the situation is.
yeah. And I also love the on the front cover it says Marvel superheroes.
Yeah.
You know. Um,
Yeah. Because at this point, we're at the point where this isn't just a one person show. This is like all the big heroes.
yeah. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. Have we don't have too much more to go.
Yeah. Issue
Number
8 is a huge one.
oh yes, and I love this one because you have the classic Spider-Man in the black symbiont outfit,
Mhm.
and you kind of figure out where the symbiont comes from in this issue a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I'll read it. It says the 1984 Secret Wars #8 is the more about characters' development and laying groundwork for the climax, with Beyonder's observation being a focal point.
Yeah. I actually have this in my collection.
Nice.
My friend gave it to me from his collection for a birthday present.
That's sweet.
And I was like, "Are you sure? Because I know how much this issue means to you." He's like, "No, no, no. I want you to have it." And I think that was for like my 10th birthday.
Dang.
And, you know, it's it's amazing to see um, the black costume becoming such a part of this story.
Yeah.
Um, although, like they point out in this issue, like uh, Professor X keeps talking to them telepathically,
Hmm.
and it feels like he's yelling, like the way that they present the words and everything. He's yelling in their head. I'd be like, "Hey, Chuck, you mind toning it down just a little? Turn the volume down from a 10 to maybe a 6, 6.5, or
I
at
also,
least give me a little warning before you do this."
yeah. Also, I feel like in this particular issue, Captain America is getting more involved, and
Yeah,
I feel like he's kind of taken the lead on this one for the superheroes,
yeah,
which I kind of felt like in other issues, Professor X was in as leader.
yeah, yeah. And, we're seeing more battles with the heroes and the villains, and,
Hmm.
you know, it's it's becoming more clear to both sides that they're basically in a stalemate
Yes.
at
Yes.
this point, because they've got people who are in these like stasis chambers,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, well, these people have supposedly died.
Right.
um so yeah, it's a great issue that has such huge repercussions throughout the Marvel universe,
Hmm.
that we didn't know at the time, of course.
Yeah.
But it did, and it was wonderful to see it, because a lot of the times, even in the 80s, it was like each comic was one, maybe two issues,
Hmm.
and it always wrapped up neatly. And occasionally you'd get a reference to something that happened in like an issue or two back.
Right.
But it felt everything was very serialized.
Yes. Now, what does it say when Peter Parker picks up that black object? I forget what.
Oh, the symbiote, yeah. Let me just take a look.
Kind of looking back.
Oh yeah, like he's he's literally, there's a machine, and it's like, um Must be this one. It looks like it wants to make me a costume. Guess I just concentrate. And then a little black ball appears. Huh? The heck is that? And why is it making my spider sense tingle? Maybe I'd better get rid of, hey, and then it is going up my arm. What is this stuff?
Right. And I
And
think, go ahead.
there's a line here that I love where when he gets the suit, he's like, well, I'll be an 8-balls uncle. Like, okay.
And I think when the symbiont comes attached to Peter Parker and his outfit, I think Peter really loves uh, what the it's doing for him, and
Yeah.
it's
That sense
different.
of power he's getting.
Yeah, and of course, this is going to be um,
Eventually, Venom.
Venom, right? But for right now, the symbiont only knows Peter Parker. So,
Yeah.
but you're
Um,
right. I see Professor X in that
yeah.
thing down below. It's like he's yelling. It's like
Yeah. It's like, geez, Professor, can you at least give us a heads up beforehand, like a mental, like doorbell or something before we're deafened?
exactly. He's like shouting, and Stacy's laughing at us.
Yeah. Like I'd be telling him, look, Professor, you got a direct connection to my brain. You can speak in normal tones.
And he always looks angry too.
He does. He
Ah.
always does. Like, and that's one thing I've noticed in these comics is Professor X and Steve Rogers always look like very angry or upset.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, I think this is number 8.
Yeah.
It's towards the end almost. It's almost well, you can't really say middle, but it's like
It's about a third of the way through,
right.
or two
And
thirds of the way through. So we're starting to see more consequences for actions done earlier.
yeah. And do you think Beyonder purposely put that symbiont so Peter Parker, better known as Spider Man, would feel more empowered?
I think so. I think so. I mean, like, not only that, but it had been a long time since Spider-Man had a costume change.
Yes.
And like he even points out, well, like he's asking himself in one panel, he's like, why didn't it come out like my old costume? Maybe I was subconsciously influenced by Spider Woman's costume.
Hmm.
Um, but it also gave them a great plot hook for
Yeah.
when he got back.
Right.
Um, so, there were a lot of things that came out of the
Right.
Secret War. Um, and some were good, some weren't good. It really depended on which writer you got.
Hmm.
Um, but overall, I really enjoy the writing in this.
Yeah.
It's still a little cheesy, but it's still good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just want to reiterate, people don't know who the writer is, which is Jim Shotter.
Yeah,
Penciler is Mike Zeck.
yeah,
Inker is John
Beatty.
Beatty.
Yeah,
Letterer is Joe Rosen.
Christie's
Colorist is Christy Shield.
Shield,
Shield.
Shield, and of course everybody's favorite editor back in the '80s, Tom DeFalco.
Yep. Always Tom Velcro.
I love Tom back in the day. I'd love reading the editor's column in the comics.
And sometimes people would write in and like heckle him, be
Yeah,
like,
And he was great at dealing with those letters.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, and of course, we always had Stan's soapbox back then.
Oh yeah.
And
It'd be funny if how Jay and Willie does the EGMs.
hmm
It'd be really funny if we did the soapbox and the editorials.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there were some great soapboxes and editorials back then.
Oh yeah.
And Stan was not afraid of taking on those controversial topics.
Yeah.
Specifically, I remember reading one about racism,
Hmm.
where he said, "Well, if you look at the Marvel universe, no one of a specific race is good. No one from a specific race is bad.
Right.
It's by person. It's like anything else. You got good guys, you got bad guys.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that, and those guys are always fun to go through. Tom DeFalco, he was crazy back in the '80s.
Yeah. And what people don't know is a lot of these people didn't get a lot of sleep as well.
No, no. And I mean, a lot of the comic industry was created by a lot of Jewish writers because they couldn't find jobs in
Right.
magazines or print media or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, a lot of them went into comic books.
And I think people don't understand unless you see the documentary on Marvel that a
Mm.
lot of these people were not getting paid as well. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, they get a little bit of pay, but nowhere near, you
yeah,
know. And it's funny because when we were reading this stuff in like the late '70s, early '80s, we thought these guys were rock stars.
exactly.
We thought, they must be getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars an issue
Yeah,
because they're creating these amazing stories for us.
yeah. And I think even Alex Sanchez, who I had on my
hmm
on many streams ago, said that he remembers that they would just beg, you know, as editors went by, can I just do something? Can I just draw something?
hmm
And they'd be like, well, I got this comic. It's not a big superhero. Here you go. See what you can do with that.
hmm
And then,
They're waiting for that break
yeah,
where they get to prove what they're capable of.
yeah,
And I'm sure it's even the same with writers.
yeah,
Like my buddy Ed Brisson, he had an idea for Power Pack,
hmm,
which if you grew up in the '80s, we all knew who Power Pack was under the '80s. It
right,
was that kid superhero team.
right,
Well, what he wanted to do with it, and I still think that this was a great idea for him.
hmm,
So Ed, if you're out there, I'm going to share your idea. His idea was to kind of merge Stranger Things with Ghostbusters
ooh,
for Power Pack and kind of also have a superhero element in it.
right,
And that was back when Stranger Things first came out.
right,
I still think that would be a great idea. I would buy that comic every day.
right. Yeah, I think writers have some really good ideas, and then the editors always, well, what's going to make me more money? What's going to,
Well, that's the thing with the industry now. They are beholden to shareholders.
yeah,
Um, you know, I certainly don't agree with everything Marvel's done
right,
recently. Same with DC.
mhm,
But you know what? I understand where they're coming from.
yeah. Well, don't even get me started on Hasbro. I mean,
No, that's a whole other stream.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to issue number 9. We're rolling
Okay.
along.
Another really cool cover.
Yes. and I like it because it really shows a lot of action and
And also, again, it kind of puts you in the perspective of you're right behind Captain America,
exactly.
you know. And when you're selling a comic book, you want the reader to feel included in that even before they bought the book.
Yes, yes, I agree. And this one's going to be epic because it's an assault on Galactus.
Yeah. And boy, we've seen that happen a lot.
Yes.
Um, and, you know, this is where the art starts getting a lot darker.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you see Reed Richards, um, and basically she's pregnant. Reminisce talking about how his wife's pregnant with their second kid and
Mm-hmm.
all that, and just basically, um, and Galactus is basically uh, acting like a god. So we're seeing a lot in very few uh, pages overall,
Yeah.
and it's this is we're getting to the payoff for a year-long event basically,
Yeah.
and you know everybody was so curious as to what the payoff was going to be because nobody really understood just what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is where Doom is gonna show his ultimate power,
Yeah.
and not to put shade on Galactus, because Galactus is his own
Oh yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
power. I just feel like Doom wants to be the ultimate god. You know.
Yeah. um and and that's always been his objective.
Yeah. He loves that power,
He
and
does.
um, I'm wondering what that big thing behind Galactus is. It doesn't really explain um, in the comic.
No, it doesn't. I think it's more like a throne room than anything else,
Hmm.
but it never does explain that.
Yeah. Do you think Galactus didn't care about what Doom was doing? You think Galactus had his own agenda?
I think Galactus did to a point, but he also knew that Doom was kind of had his own plans,
Hmm.
and it's like a chess game.
Hmm.
So I understand where Galactus might be coming from,
Hmm.
but at the same time, he's probably planning just in case Doom gets out of line.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's interesting that he's talking to Reed Richards, and he says while he's sitting in his big throne, "Would you like to view your home?"
yeah,
So I guess he's trying to, I guess, uh, pander to his, human
yeah,
side,
yeah,
because I'm sure he's worried about his companion.
yeah.
Uh, and
And at the same time, he's tormenting Reed by showing him home.
yeah, this is just another powerful issue. Um,
Yeah, It's where we're starting to really see things coming together for the climax of the series.
Right.
And I know the next issue, the cover is one of my favorites because it's very graphic for
Yeah.
the era.
Now, something that is not shown in my slide is him cutting a particular villain,
Yeah, Claw.
Claw, into several sections.
Yeah.
And I think he even makes a comment about cutting doesn't hurt when you're made of.
Yeah, he Claw in this again before Black Panther, Claw was an android.
Hmm.
So it's really cool to see that. Um, because, between Tony Stark, Hank Pym, and
Hmm.
Doctor Doom, they've created some very, very seriously psychologically damaged androids. I'm just saying. If
Also,
I were Tony, I would have probably started investing in some AI therapy sessions for them.
absolutely. Towards the end of this comic book, you see Galactus getting that energy, that cosmic energy,
Hmm.
and that's when Doom is like, now this is my time.
Yeah, it's now's the fruition of my plan.
Exactly. And I think with issue 10, I think it's gonna shock some people. Uh,
Yeah.
but what would you say number 9 was? Do you feel like it's almost like the climax point?
With issue 9, I think what we're seeing is them setting things up for that climax
Hmm.
and getting ready for that plot twist at the end. Um, because there is some serious plot twists in this series.
Right.
Um, so it's interesting. And yeah, Stacy, it's one of these things where a lot of people were quite young and they've never really gone into this series. Um, like they know key moments like the black suit from Spider-Man, but they don't understand the whole thing because they've never sat down and read it.
Right.
Mainly because I know a lot of people even today who will say, "Oh, I started reading it and I saw that it's full of this cheesy dialogue." Well, the cheesy dialogue is part of the fun.
Exactly.
You just kind of have to embrace it. It's like watching a B movie. Just go with it.
Exactly. And I think that's what is missing today. It's like, we need something that is kind of cheesy, and um, we get our own interpretation of what these superheroes are and villains. And,
Yeah, like I saw one. It was a reel on Facebook, I believe,
mhm,
where a guy was talking, or no, yeah, it was on Facebook, where the guy's talking about red flags in men. He's like, big red flag in men is playing video games,
mhm,
and he's like, why would you want to do that? And the guy who made this, who stitched this, said because it's entertainment. It's like listening to movies or listening to music or watching movies. Like, why would you want to watch Ellie on TV on The Last of Us when you could be Ellie in The Last of Us in an interactive movie?
right,
So you know, and it's the same with comic books because when I was growing up, I had three channels. Four if it was a clear day and the rabbit ears were adjusted just right, and even then it was black and white. Um, so I did a lot of reading as a kid,
mhm,
and comic books were a great way for me to kind of try to escape that. I'm growing up in a ranching town in the middle of British Columbia, and it was so boring in the 80s.
Right.
I mean, especially during the summer vacations. Yeah, sure, it's nice to go out, but back then it would hit 103 degrees for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And once it hits noon, you don't want to be out in that heat.
No.
So I'd retreat into my basement with a stack of comic books
Yeah.
and a pillow, and I would sit down there and I would just escape into these great realms of fantasy and imagination.
Yeah. All right. And the issue that we're waiting for is issue number 10.
I absolutely adore this cover.
Yeah.
It is, for the time, this was very graphic.
Yeah.
And, also, you'd never seen Doom at this point in the comics at this level of destruction.
All right.
So it was really cool to see this. The artist did an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they had fun with it.
Yep. Mike Zank was a penciler, and
Yeah,
same people that
yeah,
just incredible work. Um,
yeah. In the early issues, the penciler was John Layton, I believe.
mm-hmm.
But again, this was in that era where they had an actual book aimed at kids called "How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way."
Right.
I think I've got a copy of that down in my basement somewhere. Probably. I was obsessed with Marvel in the 80s and 90s.
Who wasn't, right?
Yeah. But
Um,
when Jim Lee came out, that's when I really wanted to learn how to draw like him.
uh, for my friend, it was Tom McFarlane.
Yeah, Todd was great too. I mean, we had great artists in the 90s.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Now, this issue, um, the heroes are tempted to build a device to return home and are divided into teams. Magneto seeks to take charge, encouraging everyone into their ship, which troubles Professor X. Thor is given command.
Yeah.
So Thor's going to take more of a role in this one.
Yeah.
Um, Now, what we don't show in the slides is it's kind of like a skeleton. Um, I don't know if you would call them
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
warriors or what they are, or
Yeah.
entities.
Yeah. Well, those are the heroes and everything.
Hmm.
Um, Basically, it's when Galactus is trying to absorb the power. It's like looking through a nuclear bomb.
Got you, got you, got you. You are
And
correct.
yeah, so, we're seeing, you know, just how bright that light is.
Right.
Although looking back, I can't help but think of Marv in Home Alone 2. Touches the tap.
Now they want to go home.
Yeah,
They're building this device. Um, I
yeah,
think we're getting close to it going back to the Beyonder
yeah,
uh, at some point. Of course, Doom is on his conquest still.
yeah,
Um, I love that in one of the panels you see Doom as big as Galactus.
yeah,
It's just crazy that uh, there's so much story left,
yeah.
and we only have two more issues before it's all said and done. And what was I going to say? Reed Richards, The Thing, they're becoming more uh, prominent in this one as well.
Yeah.
All the powerhouses, The Thing, Colossus, the Hulk, She
Yeah.
Hulk. I just feel like they have big powerhouse in this comic. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we're seeing in the last page
yeah,
where Doom is basically saying that, oh, the Beyonders no more, and Doom has been reborn. Thus, two evils come to an end. There is no enemy left to fight.
right.
Um, you know, and I love how in the bottom corner they've got. Nonetheless, we strongly suggest that you read the next issue of Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars on sale in 30 days.
Exactly.
Um, and that was really cool. Because basically they're saying, hey, if you think it's over, it's not over yet.
Exactly. And they're just teaching everybody, you know. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you you think it's over, but we're going to give you more. And I think in the next issue, we're going to see something that Doom hardly ever does.
Yeah.
And you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Um, which was I thought was very interesting to put it in this comic book back when they did, because you don't really they don't show the identity of the villains that often. And
Or if they do, it's, like in DC, some of the villains don't wear masks, period. But
right,
those that do, you don't really see them without the mask.
right. So when this issue came out, would you say that this was probably 8 and 10 were probably the best out of
I, I, I would say that 8 and 10 were the most impactful.
okay.
Maybe not the best writing wise,
Hmm.
but certainly the most impactful story wise. Um, I would also say that, the one where, with Ben being able to turn back to being human again.
Right,
Very big thing because, of course, Ben has never been able to turn back to his human self. He's always wanted that.
right.
Um, so we're seeing a lot of things happening.
Hmm.
And, you know, and let's remember that when this came out, you had to wait 30 days or more
Yeah,
for the next issue to see what was happening next. Um, so, these were serious cliffhangers.
yeah.
This is not like Netflix where you can binge an entire comic series in one sitting. Um, and that's the big thing is the thing I like about comics.
Hmm.
Um, if I'm not getting a trade paperback, if I'm getting individual issues, which I still do from time to time,
Yeah,
I like that cliffhanger. I like that 30 days of not knowing what's going to happen. Even if I'm speaking with the writer on Facebook, and I've done this many times, I
mhm.
never ask them, oh, what's going to happen?
Right.
Because I don't want to know what's going to happen before I read it. I want to go out. I want that anticipation of opening the book,
Hmm.
sitting down, and just being carried away to that universe for a few minutes
Yeah.
and not knowing. Um, and I honestly think that as a society, we've kind of forgotten about that. Like, even in cartoons back in the 80s and 90s, those two-parter cartoons,
Yeah.
they were killer.
Yes.
especially if you missed the first part.
Oh yeah. Like what? Transformers, GI Joe.
Mhm. You know, Wildcat, Spider Man,
Mm-hmm.
Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was a commitment to sit down every weekend. Zazel, how you doing, buddy?
Mm-hmm. Zazel. Howdy,
Yeah,
folks. Oh, it's great to see Zazel. Howdy, folks.
yeah,
Purple, yellow, diamond, hand, pink waving.
yeah.
It's
But
always
no,
good.
I mean, I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love I love those cliffhangers
Mm-hmm.
because even if it was just a week, you got to talk with your friends and you got to theorize about what was going to happen next.
Yes.
And that was the fun part. And if you were lucky enough to have it recorded, you could watch it over and over again.
Uh-huh.
I was not.
Yeah. I just want to point out Zazel's had um, on his channel them actually going over all the Secret War toys,
Ooh,
and I found it very interesting that some of the figures were reused, and
yeah.
they were going over what they liked about the figure, what they didn't like about the figure.
Mm.
Al-
I can understand that, you know.
Also, the way some of the kids would use the toys back then,
Mm.
and I know Zazel didn't like some of the Punishers that came out.
Mm. Yeah, well, there was one that specifically had a very serious issue, which, like, the characters had hidden weaponry,
Hmm.
and the Punisher basically had a rocket launcher in his crotch.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that one was a wild one. I'll send you a picture of it. It's something you cannot unsee.
But I like his channel because you get it from a toy perspective,
Yeah,
and
I
um,
love I love checking out Zazel's channel all the time.
oh yeah,
He's a great guy,
yeah,
um, and you know, always fun to watch.
oh yeah,
And he has some toys that I would love.
oh yeah,
Him and Tony at Analog Toys. All right,
oh,
Analog.
yeah.
Yeah, Analog Toys. Yeah,
I don't know where Tony gets all his stuff, but um,
he has stuff that I have never seen before.
it's incredible. And I'm like, I know I saw that one video where he went to I guess it was Japan,
Yeah,
and he was finding stuff that are very hard to find here in the United States. You know, it's just like,
yeah, yeah. You know, it's really difficult to find certain things in North America,
yeah,
uh, especially in Canada. Western Canada, we have like no vintage toy stores in British Columbia outside of the coast.
mm,
Same with game stores. There's
yeah,
plenty in Vancouver, Victoria area where I live. I got Facebook Marketplace, and that's the best I got. So I usually end up ordering online from stores around me
yeah.
or from where Jay lives.
Also, I want to point out I was watching. This was not related to comics, but I was watching the documentary on Sergeant Slaughter, and there was Zazel.
Oh, of course, because Zazel, Zazel is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Sergeant Slaughter fans I know,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
I would love to meet Sarge one day.
yeah, and there was a glimpse of it's Chad and everybody that we know
Hmm.
on that particular issue.
Yeah, and I will say this: Chad is a lot taller than you'd think.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's taller than me.
Yeah, and his daughter, the mini Chad and Mamder,
Hmm.
just graduated high school.
Oh, nice.
So big congrats to her.
Yeah.
Um, Congratulations 4 years of hell is finally over.
I'm sure he's happy.
Oh yeah, I saw pictures of him. He was so proud.
Yeah, and it's good, and we all know he's busy with his new uh,
Home
home, and he said he was
setting
gonna.
up. Yeah, he's setting up his new Joe room.
Yeah, he said he was gonna mow the lawn for the very first time.
Ah, yeah. Oh, and Joe Fest was a blast. That's awesome, Zazel.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because he puts him in the Cobra Clutch on the documentary,
Oh
and,
yeah, yeah. I did catch that part. Yeah,
and they showed Zazel's GoFundMe page too.
yeah,
On that was kind of cool.
yeah.
So
I mean, I told Chad, I would love to meet two people in the GI Joe universe the most:
yeah,
Sergeant Slaughter and Larry Hama.
I've been trying desperately to get Larry Hama to come on my channel, and
Larry's a very busy guy.
I understand that, and but his agent is like he's so difficult to work with.
Yeah,
He's like, well, you're not a very big channel, and I'm like, well, no,
we're
I'm
no,
not.
we're getting there.
Yeah, I'm working on it, and yes, I don't have thousands and thousands of subscribers, but the people
Give
that
it
I
time.
do have, I greatly appreciate.
Yeah, and and they love like stuff from like Larry Hama and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to this issue,
yeah,
we're starting to see the payoff.
yeah,
Um, and we're starting to get into that epilogue
yeah,
where everything's going to be wrapped up to some extent
yeah,
because they want to carry it on into the comics for each of these characters and teams.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to the next issue, which is number 11,
Yeah.
and this one was called "The Face of Doom."
Which honestly looks kind of like what you expect Prince Valiant to look like.
Oh yeah, yeah. But you know what? He kind of reminds me of. I don't know if they did this intentionally, but the Green Goblin,
Norman Osborn.
Norman Osborn, kind of the same
Yeah. Very
hair.
similar structure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was done on purpose or they just kind of said, we want to stay with kind of the same kind of look.
Yeah.
But like in short, Secret Wars 11 concludes the major conflict with Doom, leading to his downfall. Subsequent efforts to restore the multiverse, and this is the first time we hear the word multiverse.
Yeah. And it's also um, where we are also going to see Molecule Man going completely bug nuts.
Yes.
I mean, he wasn't exactly all there to begin with,
Nope.
but
Nope.
yeah,
And I love that Doom takes off his faceplate and shows himself, you
yeah,
know, that he's actually human. And I think probably shocked a lot of people when that issue came out.
oh yeah, yeah. We're starting to see that some of these heroes want to stay there,
Yeah.
which I think was really cool.
Yeah.
And that was the bit of the twist
Yes.
that we started to see was not everybody wants to go back home, and we're starting to see that Doom is also not as mentally stable as we thought he was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what we don't see on the slide is basically I guess Doom is talking to Molecule Man, or
Yeah.
and that's where he goes off, and Doom's just his arms together, just
Yeah.
talking to him, and I think he says in the end, he goes, "Indeed, you are more." Was it? God, I got my glasses on, and these prints very small.
Yeah.
Let me turn on the light. Uh, Indeed, you are more than you realize. Let me show you. So
Yeah.
I guess he was trying to say that he's more powerful than he realizes.
Yeah.
Let me show you more.
Yeah. And yeah, like you're starting to see them starting to wrap up the storyline.
Yeah,
And and that's good.
yeah.
Because this has been a long story. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. Now there was a page before the Hulk and Spider Woman are going at it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know why the Hulk is. Uh, I don't know if admired or dislikes Spider Woman.
Um. Oh, she thought he was sleepwalking.
Oh yeah, and then she's caught up in her web.
Yeah, he gets her. He gets caught up in her web,
Yeah,
and basically saying, for somebody who sleeps, who's asleep, he's still as strong as a Sherman tank.
uh,
To be fair, the Hulk probably could walk through that without even slowing down.
exactly. Um, it's just very interesting how all the interaction between all these superheroes are in this
Yeah,
comic book,
yeah,
and Spider Woman goes to Captain America where he's just got all his gear off almost,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he says that Spider Woman is more, or
yeah. And and talking about, well, where did Doom go? Did Doom say anything? No, but he left that way.
exactly. And
You
I
are
also,
summoned to the Tower of Doom at dusk tomorrow.
yeah,
What tower? What's he talking about? And I like that. Must be that.
exactly.
Doom is many things. I don't think subtlety is his strong point.
No, no, no. But this is where I think Captain America confronts Doom.
Yeah,
Of course, Doom is nonchalant. He's like, "Oh yeah, just come on in. I'm just relaxing here, chilling."
yeah,
But
yeah,
this is another good one. Um,
yeah. And again, it's really building to that finale.
yeah,
Um, like like Piotr Colossus is talking about, I finally have found true happiness, the one woman in all the universe I love. The thought that it might end, that I might be killed now that we could ruin it all unnecessarily. Am I being selfish?
yes, yes. And I love that all the superheroes. It's almost kind of like Justice League, kind of
Yeah,
round table, kind of
yeah,
getting together, having a talk.
yeah. I mean, it's a great thing. It was a great series, and that it's wrapping up, and that we know. that these consequences will carry over into the regular worlds.
Right.
Um, it's going to be interesting.
Then you see a big explosion at the end, and I love it. And the caption says, "To be continued."
Yeah, yeah. They do love their cliffhangers.
Oh yeah.
And this is when the comics started going up to $1.
Yes. Yes. We would
And
love it to be $1 today, but
oh, I would kill for it to be $1 today. I'd go into my comic book shop and I'd be making them very, very happy.
okay, because you could come out with a handful of comic books for $20.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I go down there after like 3 or 4 months of not picking up my pull list because I like to do that. And that way,
Right.
I've got, you know, and I'm looking at like anywhere from $80 to $200, depending on the issues.
That would be correct. Yeah, that I've seen some people throw down 500. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
I
like,
know people that will throw down that much easily.
and I look and when the guy says, "Oh yeah, that'll be 500," I'm like, I'm behind the person going. I'm like shocked. I'm like 500. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's when I usually joke with my when I get a high bill. I'm like, look, Nick, you know, I want to buy the comics, not the comic store.
And of course, they're probably laughing and we're like,
Oh yeah, Nick, Randy, and oh, I forget her last. I think it's Emily. Anyway, wonderful people at my local shop. They know more about comics than I do.
right,
Uh, Randy has like encyclopedic knowledge. You mentioned like the most obscure character in a series. He'll know what issue it appeared that character first appeared
yeah,
in a heartbeat. He'll even give you a panel number.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this is going to be the climax.
yeah,
We're getting ready for issue number 12, and I love that we're coming towards the end.
yeah. And if that cover does not tell you crazy, nothing does.
And I love that the Captain America shield, which is supposed to be indestructible, right?
Yeah, or close to. Yeah,
There it is in shambles.
yeah,
So it kind of tells you what's about to happen, you know.
yeah,
And what I liked about this last issue, I got different slides. So what you see here, I got more so that we can show because I felt like issue 12, I could show more,
yeah,
of images.
yeah,
Um, but this is basically, Thor's going to get it. It's going to be at his what's in with Doom, and
yeah,
also Captain America is going to be dealing with Doom as well.
yeah,
What did
yeah.
you think about this particular issue, Dan?
I really enjoyed it. They really went all out with the detail on a lot of these, um,
Mhm.
the images. You can easily tell that they really wanted to show the detail in it, and they clearly were using larger uh, paper, like larger stock, and
Mhm.
then publishing to smaller size because the amount of detail they're showing is incredible.
Exactly. And I love the title for this one.
Nothing to fear.
Nothing to
Or
fear. Yeah.
yeah. There is one page in this comic that makes me laugh every time I see it,
Uh huh.
and it is the one with the big battle going on with all these monsters.
Yes.
And the reason I laugh is because the biggest one in the center of the page always makes me wonder why Gumby's attacking Colossus.
That is so hilarious.
I mean,
I
if
got
you look at it, it looks a lot like Gumby.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think I got more slides here. Shows more stuff.
Yeah.
More of Captain America.
Yeah. We see Cap taking more of a leadership role now.
Yes. And I think this shocks Doom.
Yeah. Well, Doom's always shocked when someone dares oppose him.
Oh yeah. But the thing you were talking about, that big huge monster, it's a purple one, correct? Purple and
Green.
green.
No, just a green one.
Just a green one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. There's the yeah. It does look like Gumby. Yeah.
It does. It really does. Not close enough that it would violate a copyright law, but close enough. But
Well, maybe Marvel liked Gumby back then, So
either that or maybe just an artist looking at one of the kids' toys.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of good action. That it's actually 2 pages.
Yeah. You got a full page spread there.
Yep, which is great because when you have that, there's gonna be a lot of detail in the artwork. So.
Yeah. And, yeah. And, you're seeing like Claw eventually betrays Doom
Yeah.
because the Beyonder took over his body.
Right. She says, "I want to see." Stacy wants to see. What does she want to see?
Oh, yeah.
And then,
I think she wants to see the Gumby.
I don't know if I have that. Let me look. No, I do not have the Gumby. Sorry, Stacy. No. Also, James Lucas says, I asked the question, what is your favorite comic book? Hard to
Yeah.
pick one, but my main would be G.I. Joe. But Batman has always been a favorite.
I respect that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
The Gumby looking guy. Yes. I hear you.
yeah.
I will take a photo of that for you, Stacy, and I'll send it to you.
I just pulled a screenshot for Stacy.
Okay.
I'll post it in Jay's Discord under the comics thing.
Okay. Cool.
So you can enjoy it there, Stacy. But yeah, it pays off really well in this storyline.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go.
Well, I was saying, one of my favorites is, Spider-Man getting some food. And he's like, why does all this alien interplanetary fruit look like eggplant? He's like, if I had to choose right now between peace on Earth and a Big Mac, it'd be really close.
Absolutely. And do you feel like Captain America had something to prove in this last issue?
I think that they kind of set it up so that he would, yeah.
I think because, Captain America stands for everything all American, that
Yeah.
I think they wanted to really
Yeah.
him be the main focus towards the end.
Yeah. And I definitely give that, yeah. It's just the way it kind of works out because, of course, Captain America and everything. Not to say the others don't do their part,
Yeah.
but there's a slide or a panel in this where Hulk's got a broken leg
Oh.
and they've got a cast on it, and the crutch looks like more like a jackhammer.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's holding. Yeah, it does look like a jackhammer. Almost. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of cool, but I guess you kind of have to figure out, okay, what's a crutch for someone who can bench press like a building or part of a planet gonna look like?
Exactly. And then our last slide basically shows the power that Doom once possessed, and it's kind of been taken away from him.
Yeah, yeah, and we're seeing, of course, She Hulk has
Yeah.
said that she's taking over Ben's place in the Fantastic Four,
Right.
and I completely understand why they're doing that,
Hmm.
especially considering he's able to turn back to his human form. You know,
Here's this comment. Doom looks like more like Julian McMahon than.
than RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah,
And I like that Ben staying behind. I think he wants his humanity back and doesn't want to be look like a freak.
yeah. He's found a place where he can look human again.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I like how at the end where you know they've all gone home, and he's like, nice guy, Reed. A
Yeah.
little bit of a worry wart though. I'm gonna be fine. A
Yeah.
little lonesome maybe, but what's that? What's that? What it's FDR said once. There ain't nothing to fear.
Right.
And of course, Ben comes back.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's an amazing series. Um,
Oh yeah.
and you know, for a storyline, it was very um, innovative and also risky for them to do this for
Yeah.
12 issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. So overall, though, great storyline, great characters, amazing artwork,
Exactly.
and writing the way it's supposed to be done, which is you focus on the characters and the action.
Now, in my the book that I bought, towards the end, it shows a Mattel ad, and um, I think Stanley and their artists basically for advertising for Mattel's Secret War line.
Hmm.
Um, having the characters basically say, go out and buy their toys.
Hmm. Well, they knew the market demographic when they wrote this stuff.
Oh yeah, and
They're
they show some really good stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some of the classic stuff
Yeah.
that they posted. Um,
No, I
but
really don't like. Was it Falcon
yeah,
and Toy? It doesn't look as real
yeah,
good as
See,
it should be.
yeah. The other ones look really good, like Doom and the Secret Wars toy line
Oh
looks
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Iron Man,
Mag,
same thing.
yes, Iron Man was good. Magneto, not so much. Um, the Black Spider Man looked really, really good.
Hmm. And this was again going back to the '80s. This was before GI Joe really came out, so you
Hmm.
were still looking at that 3 POA.
Yep. Did you know when they did the original drawing for Spider Man's black outfit, it was supposed to be black and red?
Really? Huh. Cool.
I don't know if you could see it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Chances are the printer would have had hell with that.
Oh yeah. So I guess the classic black and white was better.
Yeah. Well, I guess it made it easier for them to print.
Yeah. But that's interesting. They wanted to do black and red.
Yeah, and eventually they kind of did something like that.
Yeah. Also, there's some cool stuff.
Oh, nice. Some nice sketches, like the proofs and everything.
I think that's pretty cool. That
Yeah,
they would share that with the people.
yeah. It's definitely fun to look at. I love seeing like the behind the scenes stuff in comics, like the pages beforehand.
Oh, could you just imagine the stuff that George Lucas artwork
Yeah. Well,
and
I remember a story about him where he would look at the artwork. They would pin it up on cork boards,
hmm
and he would go by and he had a stamp.
yeah.
And if it got a stamp, the artwork was approved. If it didn't, it wasn't going in the film.
Also, didn't his storyboards didn't he highlight it with different markers, color marker highlighter
Yeah.
markers?
Yeah. Spielberg also did that.
I thought it was kind of weird because when I saw the documentary, he's like this and this and no,
Yeah.
not this. And I know. I think maybe George Lucas drove his workers crazy.
Yeah, but when you're working for Lucasfilm, I'd be willing to suffer that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like in episode 3, let's not forget that he killed his own son.
Mm, yeah.
The young man, the young Padawan at the Jedi Temple with
Right.
Bail Organa.
Yeah.
The kid that they kill, the Padawan,
Mhm.
is Jet Lucas. It's
Oh.
George Lucas's son. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I can just imagine that. Fine, you don't want to clean your room? I'm killing you off in episode 3.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
god.
there's some really great stories. Secret War is one of the best that they
Yes.
have ever done.
And I know people said there's a Secret Wars too, but it's still not
There
the best.
is, but it look, Secret Wars 2 was nothing compared to the original, folks.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a decent read. I'm
Yeah.
not going to deny it, but it didn't have the impact that it that the first one did.
Right.
And and if we ever go through Civil War, that's going to be like a month-long saga.
Now, if you were going to do a long saga, what superhero would you like to see that they've never done and taken and made it into an epic crossover?
Ooh, not so much a crossover, but I would do the Jeff Johns Animal Man saga because it's when he really brought it in because it was basically Animal Man being an animal rights activist
hmm
and treating the heads of these corporations that test on animals like animals.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I would also love to see a proper Swamp Thing.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I grew up with the '80s cheesy movies, and quite frankly, I'm never going to look at Heather Locklear again after that one. That was a good one. Um, but thank you, Stacy. Who knew that remembering all this stuff from growing up would come in handy? Um, but there's so many great things that I would love to do a proper epic
hmm
on film. I would love to do a proper Civil War, though, because, like I said earlier, it felt like the Captain America Civil War.
hmm
It- they rushed through it. They didn't. I know they set it up in the movie previously, but honestly, to do it properly, I think you need at least 3 movies.
Yeah.
And you can't shy away from what caused the Civil War, which was, in this case, in the books, Stamford, Connecticut getting completely nuked
Yeah.
by somebody with powers that they couldn't control.
What I would love to see, and there's two things that I like to see. I would like to see all the Robins go at each other
Mm-hmm.
to finalize a final Robin. You know,
Mm. That would be nice. I'm getting tired of a new one every few years.
yeah. And another one I would like to see that we've seen in the comic, but I would love to see it on the big screen would be GI Joe and Transformers crossover.
That would be absolutely great. I sent a video clip to Chad,
Hmm.
and it was from the movie Transformers at the very end scenes where they're scrambling all the fighters and everything. And I told Chad, see, they know how to do G.I. Joe. They just keep putting it into Transformers.
Right, right.
And I think, you know, unfortunately, as long as the Bonaventura or whatever is controlling things,
Hmm.
we're never going to get a great G.I. Joe movie because he doesn't understand the characters. He doesn't understand the property.
Now, what
Um,
director do you think would understand the property better than him?
well, producer wise, I would love to see Michael Bay
Hmm.
not direct but produce it because he knows what it takes to work with a military.
Hmm.
Um,
Of course, Top Gun.
yeah,
Uh,
and if we could get Jerry Bruckheimer in there as well, that would be great.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I'm I'm a, I know they're trying to do something with GI Joe and Transformers as a crossover,
You're right.
but I don't know how well that's going to work out. I'm keeping my expectations low, but I'm preparing for you know something that I might actually enjoy watching.
Hmm. Now, do you think? I know this is a stretch, but I would love to see it happen. Um, I would like to see Red Hood and Punisher going at it.
That would be interesting.
DC and Marvel.
Yeah,
I mean, Punisher is great, and then you got Red Hood, who's a loose
crazy.
cannon.
Yeah, I would enjoy that. I would enjoy seeing that. Um, I would love to see more done with the Punisher,
Hmm.
more than just a series.
Right.
Um, you know, I grew up with the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, which is again cheesy fun.
Yeah.
Um, Thomas Jane, I loved him.
Hmm.
The next guy that played Punisher, I forget his name. I enjoyed him. And John Barenthal. You
Yeah.
know, I
Oh
think
yeah.
he does a great job with it.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to see them go more into the character of the Punisher, like you do in the comics,
Right.
which is, you know, in the comics, yes, to the outer world, he's the Punisher.
Hmm.
But then when you see him away from that, he's very morose. He's very brooding and thinking about his family and what he's lost, and even asking himself if the war is worth it sometimes.
Yeah. Not to get off the subject, but
Yeah,
this kind of has to do with Punisher a little bit. You remember Kevin Nash in The Punisher, right?
yeah,
As the Russian guy.
hmm,
He was so bent out of shape when they did Deadpool that they didn't ask him to come to revive his role,
really,
and they used somebody else. And he's like, "That's not the character. Why couldn't you just call me and ask? Would you revive it?" He said he would have done it in a heartbeat.
yeah. And I loved him as the Russian.
Yeah,
That
I just
fight was
can't
just
see
hilarious
someone
on
else doing
watching.
it. You know?
Yeah. Well, you see, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that if you don't ask, then the answer is going to be no.
Right.
Like, go back. They asked Wesley Snipes, "Hey, you want to play Blade again?" Sure.
Yeah.
You know, they asked Chris Evans, "Oh, do you want to play, you know, Human Torch and Captain America?" And he's like, well, maybe not Cap. Okay, we'll go with Human Torch. Okay, let's do that.
Right. Yeah.
And they had fun with it. And
Oh yeah.
Patrick Stewart, hey, you want to play Professor X? Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these people, they're not doing it because of the money anymore, because they've got money from making these movies. They're
Right.
not hard up for cash. A lot of them, like Ron Perlman,
Hmm.
has always said that he wants to do things. Same with Vin Diesel. He said he wants to do things because he finds either the character really fun to do,
Yeah.
or because the fans love it.
Right.
And I think that's the secret that they need to learn is, look, yeah, offer them money, sure. But sometimes you got to say, well, the fans are going to love seeing you in this.
Right.
It's how they got Hugh Jackman to get involved with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. And it was good to see Jennifer Gardner reprise her role as Elektra.
Yeah, I had no problem with her as Elektra.
Yeah.
The movie was horrible, though.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Daredevil, not so good, but, it had its moments.
Yeah.
Um,
Do
but,
you think they purposely didn't ask Ben Affleck to be Daredevil?
oh, yeah. I think that one was intentional. I
Yeah.
think that one goes to, you played a DC character,
Hmm.
so you're dead to us.
Right. Right.
Um, so I'm curious to see where they're going to go, like this latest season of Daredevil.
Hmm.
I know some people didn't enjoy it. I did,
Oh,
because
I enjoyed it.
I liked seeing Matt Murdock more than Daredevil,
Hmm.
and him trying to balance that life and then getting dragged back in and everything. Um, I love I love this stuff. They've basically said that She-Hulk is not getting a second season. I'm like, oh, there's a shock.
Yeah.
Um, Punisher is getting his own series. Um, they've announced that Jessica Jones is back
Ooh.
for that. We're just waiting to hear about Luke Cage and Danny Rand,
Hmm.
because I actually liked Iron Fist. I thought it was a great series.
Yeah.
Um, it was okay. Yeah, he didn't do his own martial arts, but you know what? There's very few people that can pull off the types of moves he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, like Netflix even said that with Daredevil, they couldn't do what Disney did because they just don't have the budget for that level of CGI.
Right.
So, anyway, but yeah, so there's some great series out there. The comic books, definitely check them out
Yep.
because they're always better than the TV shows.
Yes.
I admit though that when I read comic books, I hear Kevin Conroy as Batman and Charlie Cox as Daredevil and all them.
Hmm.
If it's a character that I really like, I'm gonna hear their voice doing that in the comics.
Yeah. I think another character that they never bring to the movie theater on DC side is
Hmm.
always Green Arrow. Um, I know they bombed with Green Lantern, and
Oh yeah,
I know
yeah.
they've been
Ryan
talking.
Reynolds even went off after that one.
Yeah, I know they've been talking about bringing Green Lantern back to the DC universe, movie wise.
Yeah, and I mean we saw that in the new Superman trailer.
Right, Guy Gardner.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
my favorite of the Green Lanterns. Certainly not with that haircut.
I think I would be better with what's his name, the second Green Lantern that took over for
Oh, Kyle Ryder.
no, not the writer, the character.
No, I mean his name was Kyle Ryder.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
that took over for Hal Jordan.
yeah, yeah. That was Kyle. Um, yeah, where he was far more artistic, so he kind of went off the wall with the things he used the Green Lantern for.
Right.
And I would love to see that. Um, you know, there's some great Green Lanterns out there.
Hmm.
Um, if they're going to set this up, I hope that they set it up right.
Mm-hmm.
Because DC has this habit, and I really hate it,
Yeah.
is they want the big Avengers payoff without setting it up first.
Right.
Like, I would love to see like a War of the Lantern Corps that DC did,
Right.
but you've got to set that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there was stuff that never got taken place that they actually filmed with when they were doing the whole Batman's Superman thing.
Yeah.
The Justice League and the bad guys that were going to go after each other. You know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
actually filmed that and it was produced, but never seen the light of day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope DC will leak that out eventually.
Yeah. All
But
right. Well,
I
I've
want
got to go and get dinner.
Yep, I want to thank Den of Geek for being here. A great, always
Always
great.
fun. Always fun chatting about great comics and everything. And
No,
this was one of the first to ever do this type of crossover. So
yeah,
it was great to talk about. And yeah.
thank you everybody for being here. I know we went extra long.
Yeah. 12 issues is a lot to cram into one stream.
Yeah, and we went way beyond what we usually go. And
Yeah.
thank you, Den of Geek. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
My
Peace
pleasure.
out.
All right. Later, Stacy, and check out Jay's Discord because I'm going to post that in a moment. The Gumby looking monster just for you, and also the Crotch Rocket Punisher.
Yeah. Take
All
care,
right.
everybody.